so secluded. I really wish that things got better. It's been hard to keep my composure, and I really want it to be over. In a sense, in summer rays, we come back swinging. When it all comes crashing down on us, stand your ground. Faith is something that is really.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into tonight's broadcast from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We're here tonight with some ECAC Collegiate Overwatch, and to kick things off for our first match, it's going to be Boise State taking on New York University. This is the ABC Collegiate Overwatch, and of course, I am your host, Brenner Bearlad, and tonight, to join me to call all of the action is myself. It is actually going to be Rich Red Pontillo. So with it being ABC, we have 4 matches of Overwatch. It is thankfully only best of 3s, but with Boise State really being such a commander in so many of these tournaments, what are you hoping to see from the enemy teams to try to knock them off their high pedestal?
I mean, just anything. I mean, anything goes right now. I mean, we're getting to the point of where we're just about to enter into the playoffs. That is the most exciting dynamic of this because we didn't really have the broadcast this season as we hadn't the previous season. So we're kind of being the bystanders as we wait to see what the outcomes are. But getting to see the matches today is a really, really great opportunity for us to see what we have to look forward to and anticipate going into those playoff weekends that's coming up this weekend and the following weekend with the remaining ABC scheduling that we have.
Yeah, so a ton of things and exciting things to look forward to, and especially with the Overwatch 2 beta on the horizon, these players are really getting geared up for a ton of Overwatch in their future. And this is, if anything, a great warm-up for all that stuff. So what are you hoping to see from both them and the beta coming along?
I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, the one thing to really acknowledge is that this is really the last opportunity that they get to showcase Overwatch 1, and that they have to utilize the tools and the dynamics of this game before it goes under its complete evolution into Overwatch 2. And like you mentioned, a lot more Overwatch ahead because it is going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a lot of dynamics. Of course, there is still some similarities that we get to see as we transition into the new game aspect of it, but there are still a lot of things that are going to convert. Number of players specifically, dynamics change from different roles, the abilities that have been adapted. Orisa, my consistent go-to, is going to have a complete partial rework. But I mean, even taking a look at the way that this is being played, it's a great opportunity just to continue seeing these individuals put everything on the line for this last Overwatch 1 collegiate tournament.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is how the match is going to be played out. One of the last times we're going to see original Overwatch in competitive, and it's going to stay as a 6v6 for now. Oh, and it's going to be a best of 3, normally best of 5, but as these are kind of the earlier matches, not, the finals, the big matches that matter, we're going to stick with the best of 3s. And still no Assault, of course, because it is being removed, but it is going to go Control Hybrid Escort. So hopefully anything but King's Row.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean anything but Kings Row, but let's be honest.
It's only
when it
ever
comes
Kings
to
Row.
collegiate, it's only ever Kings Row. There is a special place, even casting it after being a part of the Collegiate Overwatch Championship Series. It's never a dull moment when we get to see it, and I for sure will at least think, because we've got 4 games today coming up for Boise State. There's a lot that we get to digest and watch, and honestly get to really see them evolve just in their play and how they go from team to team and their adaptation, and even just calling out to some of those really key points to Doc. Tempo. That's the one I always really like to emphasize too amongst the 3, but it's so true, especially when you have so many games like this being played over a consecutive time.
Yeah, and with the first map actually being Control going up against New York University, what are you hoping to see on Oasis from either of these teams? Walk us through kind of what's been the meta for this map.
I mean, surprisingly, there's been a lot of, coming in with the double shield. A lot of times you'll see, maybe like the Sigma Orisa. You do see the diversity when it comes to the Reinhardt and the Diva, at least for when I think immediately for tank lineup, because the Reinhardt Diva gives a lot of opportunity for, having an elevated play. You have the Diva that looks to maybe mitigate any sort of high ground positioning, has the ability to dislodge anybody from that area, or if it comes to, let's say, more of that close brawl, like I mentioned, something that's a little bit more bunkery, even in regards to, rush. And that's what's most exciting about Collegiate is because there is I think, more lucrative change when it comes to metas, because when we take a typical look at, Overwatch League or, tier 1 Overwatch, and which is going to be starting in, a very close proximity, there's still a lot of variation that these colleges and universities can use because they can make it work.
Yeah, and as we're kicking things off, it seems Boise State's going for their signature wall and wall off in this side room, able to wall off a lot of the members, but just barely inching around the edge, allowing the fight to continue. But it seems NYU is going to do the exact same thing of their own, but this time bring a great flashbang actually kicking things off, stunning two of them, able to take down the Immortality Field, and Isaac will be first blood, taken down by Chosen, quickly followed by Plato, taking down Flare. So that's main tank and main heals down very early in the fight.
You can see that they've managed to be able to get this initial position, and Chosen having that amplification matrix already up and ready for this next re-engagement is going to be huge. You can see how far forward Boise State is playing because they want to take advantage of it. They've got the crossfire now. Next going to just go completely aggressive up the stairway and try and find the shatter. Able to at least knock down one, but can't really get too much further after that with a pin into the wall, and they're just going to rush to try and hold them at their spawn.
I mean, yeah, if you have such an advantage like this, you want to take as much space as possible, but as soon as they regroup, Boise State backs up as quickly as they can. But a great Maywall is going to deny the Deadeye from Maxwell, but it still made them slow their push just that much more because they didn't know if they could break down the Maywall fast enough and reveal him to get that value. And now following up with the Blizzard, Boise State just has endless ults built up.
Yeah. Plato rotating that single ult out, trying to zone back NYU. They do have quite a bit of ultimates up there. They've let the amplification mix now anticipated it has a counter triple knockdown from the shatter, but Bagel comes in with a swiftness with that sound barrier to try and give some survivability to the front two, but unfortunately Kel and Matt do go down, so this should be an opportunity for NYU to switch it back.
Yeah, and also Kel played that very well with her. As soon as the Deadeye came out, he just faced right into him and absorbed it for his whole team. Yes, he got eliminated, but he did exactly what he needed to and was that sacrifice. So now Boise State trying to go for the re-engage, forces out the Vertific Flux from Bonesaw, but doesn't even get it off as Kel takes him down when in the skies. Now the amplification matrix coming out as Isaac gets the Flame Strike elimination against Matt Merck. Boise State playing very split, needs to go for kind of a harder reset after losing that main tank.
Yeah, a little bit of a divide and conquer here. The Flux did make it challenging when Boise State was managing to get back into it because Counts did the elimination before its full completion. You do have Maxwell now looking to try and lead in with the Deadeye. Great wall to mitigate it, though, by Swift as they prevent a lot of those shots. Amplification Matrix also not going to get nearly as much value, but as I say that, both Plato and Chosen get the necessary pickups onto the double shield comp and are able to eliminate them taking this point back.
Yeah, so Matt Merck also had a great shot there, but a little bit too liberal usage for Boise State with those ults because they definitely could have saved it for this next team fight, especially with Isaac still having his. They have to watch out and call for that. Plato does have the Blizzard to answer it, but Swift is also building up their own, so all eyes are going to be on Kel to try to eat up that Blizzard when it comes online as Boise State engages with their own.
This should just be the nail in the coffin. The Blizzard, there is more of an insurance policy to make sure that nobody can get back to the point because Boise played so far forward, keeping them at the stairway. Nobody can breach their defenses and touch this position. That's a 140% first round win for Boise State, and now puts them on the round point.
Yeah, NYU did have one or two of those good team fights, which allowed them to get up to 40%, but Boise State came back with a vengeance, and they were just able to build those ults so fast that NYU just simply couldn't match them. And also not bringing in Diva against a Mei was definitely a huge issue for them because it allowed for, I believe it was Plato on the Mei, to just constantly throw those Blizzards much farther uncontested and deny the rotations of NYU.
One of the biggest things I'd really like to see, at least from NYU coming out here, is they have to be very cognizant of that Mei and how it's going to really try and slow their momentum forward. They've got a Mei of their own to try and counteract and compete against it, but this time around, because we're not going to be on that specific map and going on to Gardens, this gives an evolution to what the composition is going to look like, and you can see that Boise State's coming out with this Sombra and Tracer versus where it's going to be this Cassidy and Tracer having a little bit more crowd control, and you can already see that Boise State's going to take this advantage early, though.
Yeah, Matt Merck on his main of that Wrecking Ball is usually going to win the 1v1 against Bonesaw, so NYU already down their main tank, but thankfully, since Bonesaw got eliminated, he's one of the fastest to come back, and now with an early pick from Maxwell taking down the Tracer, quickly followed by Kel taking down Swift, that's +2 with no DPS remaining. Now your secondary support's knocked off the edge, no less. Didn't even try to shield push back onto the map. Boise State taking very commanding as Bonesaw even comes back just to get eliminated.
I mean, this is just complete dominance right now with Boise State, just overrunning NYU on this position, taking full advantage of their positioning. And, you know, I have to give a major credit. They've found early pickups, and the fact that you did have Matt Merck already get that takedown out the get-go just is a snowball completely escalating and growing in size down the side of this avalanche.
Yeah, and Chosen's just going to continue that momentum forward, taking down the Tracer, who might have just pushed up too far. I believe that might have been the pulse bomb coming out from Boise State's Tracer, but the double break means that's the elimination for NYU, so they are +1 in this fight, and even D-Met Kel as Bagel falls, and Kel goes himself, so they are +2 and should be able to take this, but Boise State is never truly out of the fight. As Matt Merck is down there trying to brawl out. Could not keep Chosen alive as Plato falls as well. This is where Boise State should go for a hard reset.
Yeah, and especially since they've got the EMP online, they're going to just completely come back as a 6. They're going to want to find an opportunity to land as many people as they can, especially towards that garden position. The Wrecking Ball is going to be deviating away from a group position, which is going to make it a little bit harder to grab multiple players, but Maxwell's got a lot on their shoulders. They need to get this EMP so that they can find a opportunity of switching this back a little bit more easily. When they're up here at the top position, they're going to find a decent amount, but great. Oh, Transcendence comes out in time.
Yeah, did not end up committing the EMP, as well as the rally coming out for NYU, just denying the Boise State push, but no eliminations have come out of it yet, as the hack did go on to Matt Merck, but now a 5-man EMP coming out from Maxwell is exactly what they needed, and it will lead to the elimination onto Claire. But Love is going to come back with the pulse bomb onto Matt Merck, but just too late. He was able to activate the mines and get the elimination onto Bonesaw, as well as Isaac. These mines just being a nuisance, and says NYU just hasn't been able to address them. Boise State continue to pushing, haven't been able to cap the point yet. So NYU's continuing to build up that percentage as Plato is able to take down the break, as well as Kel taking down on the Tracer, but Claire will end up taking down Plato. Finally, they were able to secure the point.
Yeah, NYU, even though they got hit with 5 players from that EMP, they still actually managed to persevere quite a bit, and with Lovey looking to try and play more of that flank back line position, it allowed them to draw out that fight, gaining this percentage, and now putting themselves in a position where if they swap this back over, they could look to be in a good position for a final fight territory.
Yeah, and it's going to buy them just that much more time with Maxwell taking down that Zenyatta. Will just buy them so much more time and percentage to try to even things out as we finally get back. Again,
nice
Plato also picking up one more onto Bonesaw of all people, taking down the main tank as a Tracer. Just such a nuisance. So now NYU's just having trouble trying to regroup and have a concise push, it seems.
And as this percentage continues to climb, it's the last opportunity for NYU to press into a nice accretion, and the pickup pulse bomb, though, to counter on both supports. That is absolutely devastating for NYU to try and recover. 10 seconds to go. They're not going to be as a full 6, and they've just got to try and stagger this out for a very miraculous opportunity to even take this away.
Yeah, best. Just Love His Rage will be able to reach it. Throws the pulse bomb, doesn't land on anybody. Immediately recalls. There goes the EMP onto 3 members at least. But with no team to follow it up, they're only able to demech Kel. Now Love His Rage trying to maintain the high ground, waiting for his team to show up. Isaac able to take down the Baby Diva, but Matt Merck now throwing down the mines on point, able to take down the Moira. Now Maxwell bringing out his own EMP, lands onto the rallied Brig as well as Isaac, but it seems NYU brings it back.
Wow, that's one of those desperate moments that somehow pay off. And honestly, it was more so, I think, just the ability to get a couple of eliminations with that EMP that came through. It was onto 2. Didn't seem to be too many, but the follow-up onto them was so significant. Now it's in final fight territory. Boise State does have a few ultimates of their own. Maxwell, I would have liked to see them hold on to it, but again, they have a couple to work into this. They've got the Transcendence, in addition to both Plato and Cal. Plato goes down. Going to have an elimination onto that and lose it. Yeah, despite the pulse bomb being used as the flux to start.
Yeah, so all 3 ultimates do come out. Love is Rage even going to use their own Pulse Bomb. Hack comes out onto Matt Merck. Pulse Bomb does not get the elimination, but does half health Kel, so he's very low, trying to keep the mech alive. Will be able to get away in time and force Tracer away from the fight. Matt Merck is going to end up throwing down his mines, as well as Bonesaw. Now the rally coming out from NYU. It is full overtime, and whoever wins this fight will win this map. Or this round for Control. So Boise State's trying to keep it alive. Matt Merck, the only one on point, as Kel does end up getting DMX. So Baby Diva now here for the fight. Down to 19 HP, gets taken down by the breakthrough, followed by Swift. Finally bringing the end of Matt Merck down. The Coalescence charge comes out and forces Boise State off the point, and NYU will take map number 2 on Oasis.
Make it a 1-1 score, and I have to give them quite a lot of props, because that was digging themselves out of their grave. Yeah, like that last few percentage base where they were just going to come up short. The double pulse bomb right there in this highlight that you see should have been it. Like, there should have been no ability to recover from that, but miraculously NYU able to just find those critical picks that was necessary for them to get it, as now we transition into this 3rd round.
Yeah, so looking at the comp changes, both are going for the Symmetra Brawl, but Maxwell's staying on the Sombra as well as Swift staying on it. Love is Rage swapping off, so no Tracer, but still continuing to stick with Isaac on the Sigma, with Kel on the Diva. Walk us through the tank picks.
I mean, for the tank picks here, we're going to guess, most specifically, is just really keeping heavy mobility. You're going to have this double dive composition with Boise specifically having... Okay. All right,
suicide right into the car.
It's okay. Cars can sometimes elude you as a hamster. They are bigger than you. So that actually came through. But, specifically talking about it, again, they have both a mobile wrecking ball composition for NYU, but have kept this shield composition with Isaac. And it's going to be a little bit more controlling in a specific position and allow Bonesaw to be a little bit more lucrative and dynamic in that back position. But when you're lost that early into a fight, and this continually being numbers advantage for Boise State because of that mishap, they should be able to capture this first.
Yeah, Bonesaw's just rolling around on point, trying to buy his team that much more time, but at the same time, he's kind of wasting it as the main tank being so far forward and no team to back his up. Kel will, after being DMEC, just have to suicide for the Baby Diva for the reset, and Maxwell even gets picked up just being so far forward by Love is Rage, who swapped back over to the Tracer and is already at 90% for their Pulse Bomb. Now has it.
Yeah, does have it, looking to see what kind of value it can bring. You do have an even 1-for-1 exchange. Bolt Zenyatta's down. The break does go shortly after. I was going to say floating at a fraction of a health bar as the pulse bomb comes through by Plato. And that's going to allow Boise State once again to clean up. And huge props to the Tracer play, getting a quad in total through that engagement.
Yeah, it got right in the backline. Target prioritization of the Zenyatta, then the break, surprisingly of all. Pulse bombs right onto the Sombra, finishes off the rest. Very clean engagement. NYU constantly tries to go for the freeway push rather than onto card or even try to contest the high ground. And we're already up to 50%. They're running out of time here.
With these 55%, EMP online, Maxwell's going to have the perfect opportunity to control how this next fight in basically a half, I would say, goes. Transcendence is committed by Chosen. They do still lose Maxwell, so Boise no longer has the EMP. If NYU can claim this with the rally, fortifying their team and giving them the armor necessary to push into this, they could be able to do so. The self-destruct high overhead by Cal can't really clip anybody, unfortunately, as they get back into the mech and try and take this a second time, as now a counter rally comes in by Bagel. Boise just might be able to turn this.
Yeah, they definitely can. Maxwell came back in time, and NYU did not capitalize, and now Plato bringing out the Pulse Bomb to take on the Brit. Now Matt Mark with his second pair of mines right onto the Sigma as he takes down Maxwell, but with Plato, Kel, and Matt Merck taking down 3 more, they're looking to re-secure this point. NYU only able to build up 11%.
that was just clinical. You could just see him like precise and just precision plays, able to get these eliminations. And again, Matt Merce on this wrecking ball is really a sight to see. Extremely well coordinated, understanding the positioning and play necessary. 2-man EMP is going to be really crippling as well, since you do specifically have it focused onto both of the supports playing a little bit too far forward. You've lost that vital key to success to try and re-engage onto this point, and Boise State will be able to take this in the long run, because I don't think NYU is going to have another miracle play as they did on Gardens.
Yeah, they're playing very split up, and that cost them dearly. The two supports were just all the way by themselves as the 3-4 members of Boise State just collapsed on them. So a definite huge victory for them on that first map. Well, Boise State is brought to you by the Esports Tower, where you can score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and great coaches to help you rank up. Make sure to check them out, esportstower.com. Well, surprisingly, a kind of close match. I mean, they brought it back on Gardens, like you mentioned, but they really kind of fell apart right at the tail end of Oasis there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when it really did... To be fair, I would almost say that it kind of all fell apart right at the get-go when you lost the wrecking ball, because it may have seemed so very minute and like incremental compared to the overall aspect of them being able to at least get a few percentages. But because they never came in at a favorable fight from that initial position, it was always the advantage of 6. Then there was a little bit of stagger once they had the wrecking ball come back in, soaking a lot of damage, and now started to give more ultimate economy back to Boise State. So every little step of the way, it was just like adding, one more penny onto the tower until finally you had a whole $1 and you can go buy yourself something. So even though at this point nothing costs only $1, even at the dollar store, but that's a different topic in and of itself. But regardless, we'll say stacking up quarters so you can get yourself a quarter pounder. I don't know, random right now. But again, it's things and such. But when it comes to overall, it's those really just initial micro plays that I would like to see refined by NYU, because Boise State is taking full advantage of those mishaps. And because they have been able to exploit those subtle weaknesses that do present themselves, it's made it really challenging for NYU to ever gain a foothold.
And now that NYU lost, they're changing the meta on us. We're going to Hollywood for hybrid. Forget Kings Row. Here we are. Welcome to
I know, right? We get the luxury of being somewhere sunny. Clouds just barely coming out. And let's be honest. I went to London once. I flew to the UK, and every day that I was there, except for like one day, I had maybe a little bit of sunshine. It's like 80-something%. They're always either cloudy or rainy. So I'm glad that even in Overwatch right now, we don't get to be in Kings Row where it's kind of dark and dreary, and get to be in the lovely sunny land of Hollywood. As we're going to be seeing now Boise State on the defensive side first, with NYU coming out the gates to see if they can bring this into a Game 3.
NYU on the attack with the Mercy and no Flyers is definitely an interesting pick here for their team. An amazing
what a creation! I mean, does go down, Bonesaw, but worthwhile cause. That was worth your elimination.
For sure. The respect on that aim. You should definitely be playing DPS after that great shot, but it seems he's on tank though. But Goblin continuing to just rain a hailfire of rockets down on him, not having any denial for them. Double barrier does help, but Sigma Shield can only block so many.
I mean, Goblin's at the ult. They've got it. Rocket Barrage live and ready. Could just go immediately in once this Immortality feels it down and gets the double. Almost gets a triple, but is eliminated. Isaac at least gets a few shots necessary. The res is going to come through by Bagel and looking for a reset, though. Oh, and they're going in for more.
I mean, with no DPS, you can just continue to push forward. The Mercy's falling so low. Surprised they haven't swapped off of it yet. Swift will swap off of that Hanzo onto the Tracer, which might help them on the ground game, but they have yet to really contest the skies, as Goblin and Bagel have just been having a field day. Goblin falling very low. There's the pulse bomb onto the Orisa, but the Immortality field comes out. Now the Valkyrie and the Amplification Matrix are going to come out for NYU as they try to push. Not even through the checkpoint. They're just trying to hold their spawn at this point.
Yeah, the Fortify keeps him alive through the Pulse Bomb, but this is one of those consistent decisions to make when you're going against a Pharah. Do you take the ground game to try and outmaneuver, or do you try and deny the aerial position? And you have to, weigh your options and understand the outcomes, because if you start expending too much cost into one or the other, it's going to be easily punished by the opposing.
Yeah, so now Isaac's going to bring out the Bongo with only 3 members actually pushing along with it. So Matt Merck is just going to take it down from the high ground as he gets taken down by Isaac, but Kel is there with the refrag for his teammate. Now Hagel getting taken down by Love is Rage. That's a huge pick for NYU. They might be able to push this, even getting the res onto the main tank. They can definitely push this now, taking a lot of still damage from Goblin in the air, but he has no pocket mercy. He's going to have to play a little bit further back to try to get the flight back, but it seems they're going to get first tick. Will it be second, as Plato's still there to contest, as well as the rest of the team. Now Gravitic Flux coming online. Plato able to get the elimination on the Love is Rage on the high ground. Even the self-destruct taking down the Mercy, as well as Love is Rage with the post-mortem Dynamite to take down Bagel. Now Matt Merck taking down Bonesaw, Swift taking down Chosen. Finally, Boise State is able to take down the remaining 3 members and win the fight, but that was very drawn out.
I mean, the biggest aspect of this was that Boise showing restraint and going in on this. They allowed Plato to enable them to at least buy enough time for everyone to get back, so it's a full 6 to engage this. And the fact that Plato got rid of Love is Rage on that high ground and chipped away that's Mercy to get taken down just on the very outside radius of the self-destruct was huge, as the Flux comes in now for NYU as a desperate prayer with 40 seconds left.
Yeah, Love is Rage also bringing out the Bob to eliminate Bagel. That's another huge advantage. They're so close to getting the first tick, but now Boise State has to have an all-out brawl on the point. They just don't have the health. Brings out the barrage to take down Clara, but Love is Rage is popping off right now on this Ashe and will get the elimination. And I believe that was a quad for that. So NYU, by the skin of their teeth, with Love is Rage carrying them to victory, they get the first point. It only took them 2.5 minutes.
I mean, it was quite a bit of effort that they had to do. And again, it's always NYU really having to play reactive. They haven't been able to get, really a solid foot forward going into Boise State, who has always really been reactive. Ooh, what a bucko nade coming out from Chosen. Does go down, but still. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those style points again with the accretion. Like you really, really enjoy it, and then you get punished, and then you just kind of go on to the next one.
Yeah, so Bagel will res that back as they lose Matt Merck, who's now over on the Wrecking Ball. So NYU continue to push this. Surprisingly, Tracer on the cart, but people will rotate over. They should keep 3 on it. They'll just make it go that much faster, especially with how demanding they have this high ground. But Goblin's going to take that away and eliminate the Mercy, but he will get taken down by Love is Rage with that refrag. Boise State coming back. They do have 3 members in that team fight. Force out the amplification matrix. Hicks from Claire and get the elimination onto him, but Plato will end up falling to Love is Rage as Bagel will have to go for the res onto Goblin. NYU playing a little bit further back as Matt Marks just trying to do his shenanigans as Goblin gets the elimination onto Love is Rage all the way from the jail.
I mean, I wasn't so against the fact that you had a lot of different positioning when it came to NYU to try and control where Boise State was coming from, but because there were too many points of entry for Boise when they came back from spawn, it just then fell to pieces. NYU now with 60 seconds to work with. Bonesaw needs to get topped up and get this Flux for them to try and push even further, because really it's only 2 ultimates that are going to be online, close to 3 with Boise State. Chosen has this nano boost, which is, I mean, I would think to go on to either Goblin to maybe get it faster for the Bob, but has to draw back now. Nice pickup onto Plato. That makes it a 6 versus 5 with 40 seconds to go. Supercharger actually overcommitted, though, by Isaac.
Yeah, Bob all the way up on the high ground. Bonesaw bringing out the Gravitic Flux onto Bagel. Leads to that elimination, so they're +2 in the fight. Make that +3 after a great jump shot from Love is Rage. Love is Rage, I feel bad for your back right now with how hard you are carrying on this Ashe. Boise State needs to have more consistent answers for you as Swift takes down Matt Merck, just trying to stagger at this point to contest as the Mercy brings him back after getting eliminated by Plato. Oh, now Isaac picking up one. Swift with the Pulse Bomb taking down Goblin as well as Bagel. That should be the checkpoint, and it is at 1:30 remaining.
That's a feels bad moment for Bagel, tossing out Bob, trying to land onto the payload, and goes into the saloon in the small doorway, so they don't even get the contention, nor do they get sightlines on anybody from NYU. So you're gonna see a counter Bob come out up top.
Corridor.
And we're gonna, same thing. I see I return. I got you, Goblin. I'll do the same.
Yeah, now bringing out the pull spot from as well as Network has the mines ready. Will pick up the Mercy. That's full supports down for NYU. They will end up losing Plato though, but Matt Merck's gonna get the refrag. That should be a clean engagement for Boise. Now even continuing to clean up the remaining Isaac and hold them at their spawn no less.
Cal now having to back off just a little bit to give some assistance to the back line. Bonesaw, with them being down again, they're going to look for a regroup, but they've got the spawn advantage. NYU is closer for them to look for re-engagements onto Boise State more favorably, but I do like this position from Chosen up top, continuing to try and keep close with Goblin on the Ash positioning, and also to give assistance if necessary, having Bagel potentially get outmaneuvered and engaged upon. As the minefield now comes out by Boise State. Valkyrie committed into this, and the nano boost, everything that they've got to hopefully hold on this last 13 seconds. With the Valkyrie active from on high, they can't seem to get any picks because they've lost their hit scan. Love is Rage, early taken down, provides no assistance to just stop this consistent push through.
Yeah, able to take down main heals as well, so well, they're been +2 this right now. No heals remaining for NYU. Boise State's looking to close this one out right now. Even taking down Love is Rage, and Isaac is continuing to stay advantage in this fight. Bonesaw just trying to come trickle in. Boise State just trying to deny anything, as so many members are just throwing their bodies on the cart for NYU. Boise State, that'll be it for this first best of 3. Boise State taking them down, but now Boise State will have to go for the attack.
Yes, the goalpost has been set. They know exactly how far they need to push, and because there isn't a completion, they can look to make this a win-or-loss, is because we don't want to see a draw. I mean, draws are never fun, and it's very rare to have that happen. But
it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's very rare to have that happen on this. But I've actually had it happen once in a live broadcast where they literally stopped it, like on the same location. Like, it actually was like just right at the draw position for that initial point before transitioning into what was it? Into the street phase. So, it's a hope and a dream, but not in this game. We're going to have Boise State now. Again, they know the goalpost. They know exactly what they have to do to complete this game, to be able to take this first best of 3, as they've got a long night ahead of them going against Utah, UC Irvine, and Illinois, and NYU is just the first up to bat. And as we take a look at the composition here for the attack, I do like the fact that there is a hover potentially on this double hit scan. Goblin, I don't think, is going to stick on this. But it will be interesting to see. I was going to say, hopefully, yeah. I mean, but you never know. You never know. I've seen quite a bit more Widow, really, on some unique maps for whatever reason.
Especially in Hollywood, with how close that first point is to get a line of sight on it. You have to be a pretty ballsy Widow to just be like, yeah, I'll get in your face and just be in shooting range of you. So, I mean, that's why you run the Ash, is to do exactly that. But combining it with the Widow is definitely a risky play.
As they do push out, Goblin going to take that wide angle over towards the spawn door to get some information, as Plato now tosses the dynamite out, attempting to get some early percentage damage on the high ground. Discord instantly onto Bonesaw, who almost is picked up. And because they're maintaining this high ground, Goblin's actually going to stick with this. They'll look to move in and keep this really long sightline through the archway, potentially if anybody peeks out, but everyone's playing back. They're not opting to go into the sightlines of Goblin or Plato. These shields are keeping up, but Plato now finally taking the high ground, harassing the back line, and that immortality field not going to be up for much longer. Boise State should just be able to plow through the rest of this, unless Swift can get takedowns just like that onto Bagel.
Yeah, he was able to get the res off, but quickly was eliminated. But now Plato and Chosen coming back with 2 more, and then NYU coming back with 2 more. Goblin finally able to pick up one onto the Tracer, and then is quickly eliminated promptly. But they took down Love is Rage at the start of that fight and then continued to push forward. They definitely had a strong push, but as soon as Love is Rage came back, it was the end of the push.
Yep. And unfortunately, the dynamite just had enough chip damage on the Goblin. Couldn't really keep that sightline in the back position.
Still sticking on the Widow.
Oh my goodness. And is going to stick on it, but look to see if they can potentially get some damage onto Plato, taking down their counterpart as Cal looks to rotate back onto this to see if they can get some vision. NYU is playing this so far back, and they've got the amplification matrix now for damage.
Yeah, they definitely know that they're going up against double sniper and are so far winging against it. Plato is able to take down Claire, now calling in the Bob. This should be the point, unless NYU is going to mount a defense, and taking down Chosen like that could give you the leg up, but you did end up losing Briggs. So now Bob to counter Bob here. It's very low, will end up just getting eliminated as Love is Rage is taken down by Matt Merck. Bagel's even there with the res as Swift takes down Kel. But Matt Merck comes back to eliminate Bones as he comes back just from spawn. So this should be the Boise State point at the 2-minute mark.
And with Bagel committing to Valkyrie, they're actually going to even commit Infrasight from Goblin to make sure that they've got vision on where they're pushing into this to hold it. But a counter with Isaac on the flux, landing onto 2 up top. They do get so low, but the fact that Bagel's still able to top them up gives them a chance to recover. They didn't get taken down, so they can look for a re-entry on this last and final tick.
Only 2 members of Boise State actually contesting on the point now. Chosen coming in for the third, bringing out the Transcendence as Swift with the Pulse Bomb up for onto Goblin in the back line. Plato finally able to eliminate Swift, and Bagel even going for the res onto Goblin. Should have let him swap off heroes at that point, but Kel bringing out his own Gravitic Flux, taking down Isaac, showing him how it's done. Finally able to cap the point, but NYU burned a whole nother 30 seconds off that clock as Chosen comes in with a 2-piece to eliminate both supports of NYU.
Now chasing down the remaining few, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so about a minute longer. A little bit more swiftness when it comes to Boise State taking this, but did still have quite a challenge. Almost gets this pick up with all, there it is! All the dash is expended. Plato was counting it out and said, there's nowhere for you to run.
Yeah, good prediction. Ooh, the dynamite even eaten by Isaac at the perfect time. Just denying Plato, but he does have Bob built up, so that could just be allow them to push the card that much further. Card still going uncontested, even with Swift on this racer. But now Love is Rage even swapping over to the Soldier 76 as Matt Merck comes flying in with the mines to get the elimination on Baptiste. Now Plato even bringing out the Bob to take down Isaac on the call down, even as Chosen takes down the Orisa.
That was just a hilarious interaction that Bonesaw didn't manage to proc the Fortify fast enough, so Bob just lobbed him into the corner for a volley from Chosen just to instantly get popped on that elevator position. That was great. It's those little interactions that you just don't anticipate, but make the action actually that much more enjoyable.
It's the fun of Overwatch that we have is those tiny little interactions. But this whole time, Kel's just been sitting on the cart. Look how far it's gotten just uncontested this whole time. Now Chosen's bringing out the Transcendence once again. Great dynamite onto 4 members. Claire bringing out the Amplification Matrix on the high ground, so Boise State just simply says, all right, we'll leave the roof and you don't get value out of it. Swift once again winning the 1v1 against Goblin. Has been consistent in this matchup. As the Brick takes down Chosen, bringing out the Bob for Plato. Once again, charges it so quick. Goblin even swapping over to the Hanzo as Bonesaw takes down the Bob. Love is Rage with the Rockets taking down Plato as well as Bagel. Now Swift finishing off Matt Merck and Isaac taking down Kel. That's almost a team wipe for them.
This really needs to happen with Goblin swapping onto the Hanzo. They can't opt to have otherwise at this point, especially with Love is Rage now being on the 76. That's going to get a lot of presence. This hit scan going to focus onto Bagel, make sure they can pick him out of the sky if they do get that Valkyrie up once again. I would have really actually liked to see Plato keep that Bob to try and carry into this next engagement, because now they're getting into this really risky position. They at least have one support ultimate. If they had the Transcendence, this would be a much more comfortable, but right now they have to be very cautious in how they play this high ground. Early lead into this has the minefield coming up in a second, but still just feeling a little vulnerable for these last 60 seconds.
Yeah, Matt Merck got down to half, able to escape in time with the shield, but now he has mine built up, so he's going to try to do it exactly again, but he will have to try to deal with Swift first on the ground, who's harassing him. He's back down to half health, and Swift even commits the Pulse Bomb. Does not get the elimination. Now Claire bringing out the Amplification Matrix to deny the Boise State push across the bridge. Instead, Goblin's just going to say, I don't care. He's an elimination onto Isaac, as well as the Brig, as they're even just trying to drop off the roof. Now +2 in this fight, down a support. Boise State is feeling very comfortable pushing this. Goblin bringing out the double dragons to deny the rotations, as Kel, Chosen, and Plato clean up the remaining 3 members, and that's the checkpoint.
Oh my goodness, it was really, really well timed when it came to the minefield, because with Matt dropping that up top and leaving both the Brig and Bonesaw to try and survive maneuvering through the mines that were there, that gave a lot of agency to Goblin to just continue to fire arrows into them because they really didn't have anywhere to go. If they jumped off immediately, they'd hit the bombs, and then if they stayed there, they were just getting lobbed with treat trucks. So Goblin getting every value out of that use, and now going to try and transition with this minute and 20 seconds to go. Bob's going to lead into this, and they can see the golden box of victory.
Yeah, Bob getting a ton of damage, and now the self-destruct is going to come in and pick up Bonesaw when he was even hiding behind his shield. Now Swift takes down Bob, sadly, and Plato takes down Swift as revenge for Bob, our favorite Overwatch hero, as Chosen actually gets a 2-piece, and that will be it. Boise State wins Hollywood and the match.
First one down of the day, 3 more to go. We've got Boise State taking a 2-0 here of this best of 3 so far, and again, continuing to help them move their way up in the standings for their Group 8 positioning, and seeing how they're going to look for that next following weekend if they do manage to reach into that top 16. But you can already see out the gate what Boise State's really been able to do. They do know how to play aggressively. They are able to take care of weaknesses, but I mean, they also, even in moments where they are down, they can still look to recover, keep their tempo, and manage to turn it back in their favor.
Yeah, so things looking up for Boise State, but this stream is brought to you by Drop-In Gaming. Drop-In Gaming is the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you're new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop-In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. And to begin your competitive gaming journey, reach out to them and sign up at dropingaming.com. Well, we still have more matches for you tonight. And so we are going ahead and throw it to a break before we jump into our match of Boise State taking on Utah. We'll be right back.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your Guard adventure.
Here are a couple lessons I've learned over the years. Friendships come in all shapes and sizes. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We are continuing our coverage of ABC Collegiate Overwatch. Boise State just won a match against NYU, and now they will be taking on Utah. I am still your host, Brenner Bearlad, and joined with me to call all of the action is Rich Rad Pontillo. So after that showing, Rich, we saw Boise State struggle a little bit on Oasis, but really bring it back on Hollywood. So what are you hoping to see from Utah to try to take Boise State off their pedestal?
Well, I mean, Utah we've seen before be extremely competitive. They've gone into the later segments of this. They did manage to gain their own championship win previously, historically, and have been a very formidable team. They have fallen at least from grace since that time. So they've had a lot of changes when it does come to their composition, along with a lot of other different varieties when it comes to player rotations and even just compositional switches. But going into, this matchup against Utah, most importantly is just really wanting to make sure that as they go into this, they have to acknowledge that Boise State will play a little bit more aggressively and see if they can try and be more reactive or proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, definitely trying to take the fight where you want to rather than always getting fought at is definitely a huge concern for a lot of these teams, and they're going to need all the help they can get, and we can give that to them through Doc's Keys to the Game. Of course, in Overwatch, as you've been mentioning, it's to never take a fair fight. And what does that mean? Take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, when you can call ability advantages, and of course what we've been bringing up of tempo. And these are brought to us by Drop-In Gaming. Drop-In Gaming is the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you are new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop-In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. To begin your competitive gaming journey, make sure to sign up at dropingaming.com. We are getting ready to jump into our first matchup. And I have to ask, are you hoping to see Oasis again or a little bit of a change-up for the first map of Control?
I mean, I always like to see change-ups and differences, especially when it comes to, looking at a lot of the collegiate as we get closer and closer to playoffs, because it shows a variety of different compositions and what types of, variations we can see compositionally, or if it's something that's still consistently standard across what they're strong with and what they're confident in. Just like we saw, with Boise State when it came to the Wrecking Ball, when it came to the Diva synergy, or when it was more so, a little bit of the Reinhardt play as well. Do we deviate away from that going more so into the Sigma realm as well? Is that something that's more in the wheelhouse? But with how, Matt specifically plays, it's such a dominant Wrecking Ball, and not because that they can't play anything else. I just think that they play the Wrecking Ball so well, and it's such a great synergy
something
with
you want to
Cal
play
on
around.
this Diva. Yeah, absolutely. You want to utilize that strength, and you want to be able to continue causing an issue for the enemy team. If you can't seem to put this Wrecking Ball into check, which Matt has become so proficient on, why swap it? There's no real need to.
Yeah, and I think the same can be said with even Kel on the Diva. I mean, they're just doing so phenomenally out of it, and even getting one pick with the self-destruct is usually onto one of the main tanks or the support. So it's just huge value that starts swinging the team fight in their favor just right at the get-go is definitely just what has led Boise State to so many victories. And then same with Plato, just on whichever DPS they've been playing on. They've been doing very well with Maxwell as well, and then swapping in for Gob. I mean, the Boise State roster lineup has just been so thoroughly well-oiled machine that it's hard for any other team to really find, a little crack in it so they can try to break through it. It's been a huge issue. So now the return of Oasis, Boise State's sticking to the comp that they know and love. However, this time, and just kidding, they're sticking with Bagel on the brick.
I mean, I like it.
Up.
I like it. I mean, Bagel has such a wide hero pool when it comes to support. I mean, the Lucio play, I still am used to seeing so much of it. Their Ana play as well. Brig just able to rotate onto this. In addition, there's just such a variety, and I think that's really rewarding to have them with Boise State, because when you've got that type of versatility, it makes it so much easier to just transition into these alternative comps to be able to compete against a team who likes to be more reactive in their decision making and opt to say, all right, we need to take a comp swatch to try and change this up on Boise State. There's already an early pick on Plato.
Yeah, Turks having Cole Cassidy almost got hit by a car. He will have to teleport out. Maxwell trying not to repeat the fate of Bonesaw in our last match. But actually, first blood for Utah is a huge swing for them. Even trying to cap the point, having 4 members, even able to take down Kel. Boise State playing very split up. Matt Merck gets stuck in the middle of them. That's Boise State going to have to reset there.
Yeah, the fact that you had Hollow able to get that early flashbang and crowd control onto Plato makes it really challenging to recover from that. You've lost your harasser to work in tandem with Maxwell, and again, being over by a couple of cars when you're about to be eliminated, that's also a scary thought, so it kind of just went awry, and you've really left your supports and tank line just out in the open for Utah to take advantage of.
Yeah, and it seems that they're going to try to continue to do so now with Kel swapping over to the Zarya, something we have not seen tonight yet, but Plato's going to go into the 1v1 with Skyward now to try to get into the backline and start dealing some damage. That Cole Cassidy falling so very low. Same with the Baptiste at half health now. Well, able to be healed up as Matt Merck brings out the mines, and now Andy's also going to bring out the Amplification Matrix with Sonic bringing out the Rally. Able to get 2 eliminations onto Kel and Bagel and continue their control of this point.
With this 50% marker being reached, that's starting to get a little bit challenging. You're going to have a lot riding once again on the shoulders of Maxwell with this EMP. That's what they've been building towards. They have to land it onto multiple members and find the follow-through. You do have several that you're going into on the counter side, though. I like this position, trying to sneak on the outside, going in for a nice knockback with Matt as well. Lands onto 3. Supercharger does also come out, but still gets clipped by it, and that's going to be a hard swap for Boise State here.
Yeah, Plato with the great pulse bomb, able to pick up one as soon as the EMP came down, so couldn't even be eaten. Matt Merck finishing off all the tricklers, trying to run back to spawn. Diva's able to survive even with her mech, surprisingly, picking up that health tech as well. Well, not even falling into the holes. Chosen able to finish off Scott Hayward as well, but Utah has 3 ults in their toolkit right now, with Boise State getting very close to having 4 for their own.
I mean, this is a big concern, though, because Boise State playing similarly to how they did to NYU when they take the point. They play forward, they go push over toward the choke position or even the spawn position, but unfortunately, Maxwell went down. Hollow took advantage of it. The ultimates are stacking up. Amplification Matrix also going to be a big boon here for Andy in the back to try and give assistance on the damage front, and you've got Kel eliminated. Matt Merck on this Wrecking Ball, having to really be the front line and harassment necessary to try and stall this out as Hollow continues to just free fire into the back line. That Transcendence gives some sustainability for Boise State, but it's only going to last for so long, and now that this rotation back into it, the Rally comes online. Bagel's actually committing another. This is a lot of ultimates committed into this just to continue gaining percentage to try and equalize with Utah.
Yeah, Hollow.
Oh, wow, they're actually going to take this still.
Boise's coming back.
I'm actually really surprised. Okay, I'm impressed by that. Okay, go Boise. I know we're casting Boise. Like, good job, Boise. Like, I'm proud with that one.
Yeah, I would say that a huge issue for Utah there was Hollow rolled right into both supports and a rallied Brig, so that he was quickly eliminated because he was one of the last remaining DPSs in that fight. So him getting taken out just swung the favor for Boise State, and then they just continued that momentum forward and got the next 2 eliminations. So really just kind of a misplay from Utah, so hopefully we don't see a repeat of that with them now bringing out both the Amplification Matrix and their own Rally, and the Pulse Bomb onto Bagel. They swung that very quickly in their favor.
And now that we do have it at a 99% positioning, and 20 seconds left now for Utah until they gain the completion themselves, both have to get back online, Plato and Chosen. With having the EMP here again, this has to be perfect. And you can just see that's why you're hiding behind these pillars, because that play from Sonic is going to find you one way or another. As now the Supercharger comes out. EMP in the back gets found, actually almost gets whiplashed into the car, but does have to translocate out and looks for a re-entry.
Yes, the EMP is looking for it. The Deadeye comes out, can cancel it. Supercharger goes down to Matt Merck. Gets it onto a 4-man. Able to leave the elimination onto Nose by Kel. Chosen able to pick up 1 on the Skyward as well. +2 in this fight. Once again, another hack onto Andy, making sure he can't do anything for his team. It is 99-99, so it's an all-out brawl for this point. Even able to demech need HP. Things are looking good for Boise State, but only 2 members on the point right now. Still have to cap it first.
Yeah, Kel's going to be on the inside with the shield trying to mitigate. They've got another grab almost online. Plato goes down, gets picked up by the counterpart. Hollow with the advantage. Pulse Bomb comes in as well onto Bagel. 2 eliminated. It's a 6 versus 4, and the health values are low. Chosen picked up with a melee. Matt attempting to swap this back, but that's far too much for them to do single-handedly with Maxwell on the point, and that's going to be round 1 going in favor of Utah.
Score.
I mean, that being only the first map of a best of 3 of Control in a best of 3, and that being that nail biter. Utah's trying to take the crown away from Boise State that they've just been wearing. And I mean, taking a look at this replay with Maxwell barely escaping with his life from a break, who just randomly happened to find him. Matt Merck taking down the supercharger. Now a great EMP onto the 4 members. Boise State had a very strong start to that fight, but weren't able to secure it out.
It was really just the positioning. The EMP was perfectly placed, but unfortunately because of the spread with Utah in towards that middle section, down the stairway, and because of how this rotation came out from Matt and Kel, they couldn't capitalize on it with the assistance of Plato, so it just falls short. They stopped the Deadeye, but that's not enough for them to capitalize on.
Yeah, so now heading into this next match, we have yet to see the first blood. The Utah's Diva falling very low, but able to come back in time. Skyward down to half. Boise State might be able to capitalize on, but they're not pushing past these 2 walls as they do have the point advantage, as Kel does end up just falling down the middle. But both walls go up. It's time for the wall on both sides. Freeze is coming out for both sides, but still no elimination just yet. And of course, Master's Curse, as soon as they say that, Hollow on the Torviewer, no less, eliminates Plato. Now even the amplification matrix from Andy comes out. Oh, and that's both tanks, both DPS, and both supports down for Boise State. A clean first engagement for Utah.
I mean, I really liked the placement for Boise State with the May wall initially because it did divide the team, but because there was still some mobility with Need HP to fly over, also with the boots from Andy to gain access despite the wall's placement, really allowed Utah to still take advantage of the initial wall that came out by Skyward. Now that they've got this 25%, they're drawing back. They acknowledge that they don't want to take this and let Boise State walk into them. Amplification Matrix instantly denied, though, going to have the May wall to block the sightline. Hollow takes another rotation. Plato goes down. Skyward near this Blizzard could look to try and utilize it, but if they get the pickups necessary, these icicles aren't landing. Finally does onto Chosen with a beautifully timed Immortality Field to keep Need HP and Skyward alive, so Utah can continue throttling against Boise.
Yeah, Hollow on this Toro doing work for his team right now. Andy even able to pick up one onto Bagel. Now the HP with the melee onto the Baby Diva. Utah's really holding this map out. Boise State has yet to find an opening.
I mean, with 5 ultimates right now, they're going to have some kind of opening, and this Blizzard is the key thing.
You hope so.
You'd hope. I mean, we've seen Boise State gain a lot more with less, so I know that that's definitely in their cards of being able to recontest this with value. It's just how much are they going to put into this. Amplification Matrix Sound Barrier, and the Blizzard now going to come out to counter, but it has been eaten in a reverse. Skywards gets shut down. Kel able to be so responsive to this, but even though they had a chance to push into this, Plato not getting denied with their Blizzard, they're in critical mass right now. They have these 4 ultimates to work with, and they've got to make something work against Utah.
Yeah, this is where you just got to start throwing down the cues, because this is last team fight territory at the 95%, so Boise State needs to cap it. Turret goes down and is out. Molten Core comes online, but is immediately used, as well as the sound barrier for Boise State, and the Amplification Matrix still holding on to self-destruct. Will end up using it as Melon reaches 0 HP. Maxwell able to take down the May, as well as Kel with the self-destruct taking down Sonic. That might be a fight for Boise State, finally able to cap the point.
Yeah, swap it back. Perseverance. It almost feels kind of like a swap of positioning where it was NYU against Boise on Gardens, but now it's here in University where Boise State manages to pull a chapter out of their book. They've learned. They've lived and learned against their previous opponent, and now managing to try and compete back. Maxwell's going to look for a Deadeye. Instant pickup onto Andy, and I actually like that. They didn't hold it to try and get more. They knew that once they got the support line, they denied any sort of recovery, but there's a counter transitioning back over. Nobody's there to contest against it. You finally get somebody to assist onto the point. It was almost back-capped, and Boise State now, with their positioning compromised, they have to reposition towards this side angle and find an opportunity as Blizzard now comes in from Skyward.
Yeah, now it's an underground fight, and Kel will lose their life, but Plato is there with the refrag onto the Orisa. So both teams do end up using a take, but Utah has the Sound Barrier to lead in with, as well as the Amplification Matrix, and now Matt Merck getting frozen. It's quickly eliminated, but Plato's there with the refrag, quickly followed by Maxwell taking down Sonic. Now he's going to get D-Mech, quickly followed by Maxwell taking down Hollow, and Chosen taking down Andy. Utah had a good engage, but could not capitalize.
And now this is final fight territory, 70%. You've got the Deadeye. Maxwell, don't die on me. That's not what you want to see. And I'm just like having a heart attack for him as you've got this Deadeye. Great pickup though onto the Orisa. That's going to give a huge opportunity here for Boise State.
Orisa been kind of consistent with the first one, eliminated in these team fights, just stalling out for that much more time. And we're up to 90%. Utah's in last fight territory.
No Sam is back online now, almost has the supercharger. The wall is still active, putting a narrow choke point onto Maxwell as the Molten Core comes through. Lava is better than ice, but I'm not sure in this case it's going to give them enough value. The boot comes through onto Maxwell, 1-for-1 DPS trade. Now, Sound Barrier finally reaching its end for Boise State. Supercharger also going to end. Hollow has to rotate onto the Doofus just so that they can get mobility back to the point. Bolt tanks are down. Boise State in a desperate position. They're going to be overrun and overwhelmed. It swaps back, and only Plato can stay on the point for a hot second. Bagel can't contest, and that's going to be control point here favoring to Utah for this first map.
Yeah, solid plays by Utah coming out on Oasis. I mean, Boise State was definitely still, for the first chunk of Oasis, playing like they were still going up against NYU and had to adjust. They definitely came back on the second map, but it was a rough fight. So now, headed over to Hybrid, Boise State's going to have to change some things up here.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that when they were going back into contest, they were still taking space, but the problem was that there was, I think, a little bit of an overcommittance. There was this position of where you want to play aggressively to try and maintain your gains, but when you start to allow yourself to become overzealous, and with Utah being a little bit more punishing than I would say from NYU, what we saw in our previous matchup between the two, that's something Boise's going to have to really adjust to and make sure that they acknowledge, hey, you know, Utah right now, they're really, you know, exploiting some of the things that we're playing more forward with, and we can't allow them to continue to do that.
Yeah, they play very close together, and when they get pushed back to their spawn and say Maxwell or Plato on the Tracer and Somber really pushed up forward, they capitalized on it, took that elimination, and then just pushed right onto point, making Boise State play a member down. So now heading over to back to Kings Row, no longer the fun of Hollywood that we are at. And, I mean, hopefully we see Boise State kind of hone it in and learn how to counteract what Utah's really been bringing to the table that's been winning for them.
And that's why I'm so excited to see what this composition is going to look like as we enter in onto Kings Row. Boise State now, I believe, is going to be on the defensive side. I could be mistaken as we start off here. But again, like I said, it's gloomy. It's dark. It's gloomy. It's cloudy. It's never...
It's what you
brings
love.
back...
I know you love it so much. Especially not because of a specific rant that happened earlier or anything. We did it just for you.
Yeah,
like,
I know, right? You all heard my complaint about London and its weather, and then this happens. So it's all right. That's fine.
Well, you are right. Boise State is on the defense, and it looks like it will just be the traditional wall and maul comp of the Cole Cassidy and the May, but Utah's going a little different, sticking with Hollow on this Torb, who did surprisingly very well. Same with Nos, also sticking to this Orisa.
I'm really interested to see how this is going to work with this Orisa Diva. Wall comes out early, seeing if they can try and rotate around it to counter into this corner, barreling through, gets the turret and the Immortality Field. Lamp also traded out here for Boise State. Deep. And with Matwork, yeah, going that deep and getting punished in this corner, especially because Utah has the spawn advantage, this is going to be challenging. Goblin at least manages to get something in that exchange, but you've got to have Boise State draw back in this and try and play defensively, but they're still going to be just completely routed.
Yeah, once again, Boise State got a little over-aggressive, and Utah just capitalized on him. Amherst tried to walk into them as the Reinhardt just got taken down. Now Andy with a fully charged amplification matrix just simply, he denies any recontest that Boise State can try and do, and that's the first point within 30 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, that's lightning fast. And again, this is where it's like, I respect Matt Merck so much because of the Wrecking Ball play. But I think it's that kind of, refocus of mindset when you go from a Wrecking Ball to the Reinhardt, because once you go in like that, and if you get stunned or punished or crowd controlled for even a fraction of a second, you're down. You don't have that, shielding that you can gain like the Wrecking Ball, and no escape.
Yeah, once again, tried to wall him off. The Blizzard does come out from Play-Doh, which forces out the sound barrier from Sonic. Does end up getting 2 with it, but that will bring out the Supercharger for Nos. Double Dragon from Goblin did come out, leads to no elimination, just slightly too low. So now they're going to counter with their own Blizzard, able to catch out Matt Mark. Nematonic barely able to keep him alive, and he still stays. Goblin picking up a 2-piece, and Cal getting a 2-piece. Boise State flipped that.
I am at, Skyward had such a great opportunity with that Blizzard to press forward with the team, but because Goblin's in this high ground position and Cal also getting a really nice stun with the accretion supporting was so pivotal for Boise to continue holding this choke point. And the other thing too is I also feel that Plato's not really getting maximum value with their Blizzards because they're constantly tossing it into the wall because they don't want to risk it being eaten by Neat HP. So it's not getting the distance and the velocity necessary to go further back in the line to actually capture Utah.
Yeah, so now +1 in this fight with Haro taking down Goblin, and even the solo full core in that back hallway with Neat HP taking down Plato. That's no DPS for Boise State. This is a 2v6 fight on this car, and Kel's behind them on the Sigma. Will get taken down by Andy, so Utah can slowly start pushing the car, but Matt Merck comes charging in to take down Hollow, so he'll at least trade out for 1.
Pushing through the doorway, that archway can be really challenging to try and take a fight like that. They had the aggression, I think that was necessary, but did get punished in a little bit of a separation just because of Skyward. Now they've at least dwindled a couple of minutes, 2.5 almost off the time bank here for Utah. So they've at least bought some time to now look for a regroup to try and prevent them from reaching this checkpoint. Now, with these Storm Arrows continuing to just lay waste to the front shield, Dragon Strike actually comes from a flanking position, and Boise State's going to go aggressive again. They're really trying to use this tempo, forward positioning, and to just completely catch off Utah, but they've been there to respond. The Flux rises multiple, along with the Immortality Field to try and sustain through it. Goblin in the back, uncontested, but really not finding the picks just as necessary, especially with a sound barrier.
Yeah, Goblin's going to be the first blood of that fight after 4 ultimates have been used. And Utah just rolling over Boise. Only Plato remaining to stall them out. At least denies the team kill, but Utah just rolled over Boise after committing both the Shadow of the Dragons and the Gravitic Flux.
I understand the mentality of Boise State because you're trying to basically put the Dragons behind Utah so that when Boise aggresses forward, it's either you take an unfavorable fight or you go into the Dragons and take the damage. Either way, it's a bad choice, but with how they're able to sustain through it because the Dragons didn't actually get fully behind them, they really don't lose much here. Now, Utah pressing in, Supercharger for the extra damage as they play the corner. What, this Amplification Matrix could just be a great counter to this. That Blizzard by Skyward so far in the back, easily punished, and now in this Furnace position. This is the best place for Boise to be, but I really, really need to see them make sure that they hesitate a little bit here than going too far forward, because if they're shut down in this position where you can be respawned onto effectively by Utah, it's going to be so challenging to recover towards the later meters of this position.
Yeah, YouTube coming in with the comp song. So Nas even ends up falling off the edge, wasn't able to make it. That's hard to watch. Even at this high level, you thought he could have made it, just too short of grappling hook, I guess, because he didn't want to come back and give the ult percentage for the elimination. So that just buys Boise State an extra 15 seconds.
Yeah, all I need to say to that is their name. No, Sam. No, Sam. As Goblins on the high ground looking to continue putting in some shots to get towards that Dragon Strike, they do have an opportunity to continue holding this corner. Discord Orb makes Goblin have to play back a lot further. Does get domed, though, by Hollow. And the Play-Doh Blizzard has to come out to try and slow this momentum. Can't even get the pickup onto Neat HP because the supports are in the back consistently fueling this D.Va play. But there's a few pickups, though, that's absolutely necessary to get rid of Skyward on this Tracer. And it's allowing Boise to stem the bleeding.
Yeah, Skyward does, however, have that pulse bomb built up, only the 3% away, so that's a whole 3 bullets for a Tracer with how quick she charges it. But Boise State has all 5 ultimates, soon to be 6. Goblin immediately throws out the Double Dragon and is able to pick up 1 finally. And now Kel's going to go in with Gravitic Flux right onto the Baptiste, but he forces out the Immortality Field. They are able to pick up 2 more Bolt Tanks down. Now Sonic down as well. Boise State finally wins the team fight and once again gets overly aggressive, but is not taken down for it.
Minute 10 seconds now to go. Bolt supports online for an ultimate for Boise State. If they just rotate these out in their ultimate economy, Supercharger up front, very aggressive. This is actually the one few times that I think that this is absolutely warranted for, where they're going to now look to try and give that damage because they've got the Blizzard to follow it up. They've got the Transcendence by Bagel. Full spot goes wide, does get Immortality Field in the Supercharger, but it was already towards the time of expiring. Transcendence from Bagel allows them to sustain. They're holding onto this with 40 seconds to go, but now this is a go moment. Utah has to come in with a Transcendence of their own as the Blizzard locks down 1 and below, but still getting covered and topped up by Sonic. Left out in the back as Bagel takes him out of the fight. 25 seconds to go. This is final moments for Utah, and they don't have much to their name to use.
The fact that Andy lived through all of that, got Blizzard, didn't have Immortality Field, Sonic ends up dying, has 2 members chase him, and still survives, and then eliminates Kel. Boise State getting overly aggressive, chasing him down, lets the remaining members of Utah respawn back and come
beautiful
back
lockdown. That was huge. Plato managed to lock down the Wrecking Ball play. No Sam couldn't go anywhere, and then they continue to pummel them with damage so that they are going to have to go back to spawn. Skyward, picked up by Goblin, up top in the archway, finds a slick pick onto their counterpart. Hollow goes down, another onto Sonic. Just continuing to lay waste as the overtime dwindles. The payload's about roughly in the middle between both spawn positions, so it's not in either's favor, but Utah finally manages to get a grasp onto this, and they opt to switch to Doomfist and Sonic onto the Lucio.
Yeah, Hollow also over on the, or still on the Tracer, and the Ryan coming out from No Sam. Ooh,
oh no way!
Shot from Goblin. Hollow.
Goblin, we've seen you on the Reaper, but watching you on the Hanzo read that play was beautiful as the overtime still commences. No Sam in a winter storm with need HP getting brought out of the mech. Overtime should dwindle as long as you've got Plato locking down and slowing players. The Transcendence from Bagel is just the insurance policy necessary to keep holding on to this. And now with the picks finally coming through, Skyward down, Hollow eliminated, that will be a defensive hold in the tail end of Furnace for Boise State to once again, like against NYU, set the goalpost.
I mean, they got much farther than they definitely should have. Boise State had such a strong hold at this exact point, but one quick cleanup from Utah just allowed them to continue to push forward, with Gowan being the only survivor. But Plato's come back with these Blizzards and had some very good placements after a rough start. So now Utah on the defense and Boise State on the attack. I'll be interested if they still stick with the same team comp of that Cole Cassidy and May for the first point.
Goblin is true to their name. They've got literally like a cauldron of gold that they've just got like coins of moments like that one. That's what they fill the cauldron with, just moments like that. I can't believe that read onto the Tracer play. It's little things like that where it's like I just watch. I'm just like, that's why I'm not a more elevated player, because I wouldn't be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm a Mercy main, so I don't have that skill, sir. I stand behind and hold left click, so...
Yep, you and I both are just sitting here, and it's okay. Goblin, take the stage for that one. But as now we do take the swap of sides, Boise State on the attack, and again, basically, let's look at it this way. Their aggression is like 120% on the scale of a 1 to 100, and if they roll it to just maybe 100, I think they got this. Like, they got it. Like, there's just a couple times where they're punished, but ultimately, I still really like to keep them with this aggression as we enter in on to now this positioning where Utah takes that upper side. A little bit of an interesting composition here. It's going to be the double bubble comp, and they're going to bring Goblin back out onto the Spara, which I'm really excited because this is another opportunity for Goblin to flourish, especially on this initial point.
Yeah, he's going to have to watch out for that Hollow Torp turret as he quickly makes sure to eliminate it, but Matt Merck first eliminated. It quickly followed by Plato, just went in without the team backing and just got picked off. Quickly followed by Kel, also getting picked off, which forces Goblin and Bagel and Chosen to just simply back off.
This is calling back to the point I made earlier on Hollywood, where when you have the Pharah, it's either you take the ground game or you acknowledge the air. At this point, you've kind of done both. The Torbjorn with the turret in the back is going to cause a little bit of a challenge for Goblin in the air because of the immediate tracking, and then it also allows them to focus here onto Matmerk up front, who's going in for these dives, and the barrier not being enough to cover it, with Goblin still raining damage overhead, caught out in the open, gets hit by an icicle, and sends them back to spawn.
Yeah, just great aim from Skyward, as well as Sonic just finishing off Bagel. Now Need HP taking down Chosen. And that's both supports and the main deeps for Boise State taken down, but Barrage is up. So they'll have to watch out how hopefully Utah has been able to call that, as well as the Nano coming out here. It would be an interesting wombo combo to try to keep Goblin alive even with the Pocket Mercy healing.
Now looking to try and get back into this. 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Almost half the time expended. Nano with the Pharah rocket barrage into the back, attempting with the Diva to mitigate it, but they actually get D-backed on their way up, so they can't use the defense matrix to prevent the damage as Goblin finds another amongst the hotel. Oh my, that's going to be a nice pickup here for Boise State with still a decent amount of time on the bank as Andy gets popped on the ground with a salute to say bon voyage.
Yeah, Boise State able to commit their 2 ults to Utah's 2 ults and come out on top, even ulting first. Huge advantage for Boise State. Committing the Barrage Nano, like I said, but quickly Utah answered it with their own Molten Core and Blizzard, so no DPS on their side, but Hollow swapping off the Torb as well as Skyward swapping off. And now the Supercharger coming out, they're coming back with a Vengeance and take down the Pharmacy combo.
And the fact that they do get rid of that is going to make it a little challenging for Boise State. They have to be cautious. Most likely going to be able to send back to spawn and look for a regroup. But now that Utah's playing this far forward, they're going to hold this archway. But I want to make sure that they fall back. That's the most important part here. They're going to be respectful. They know that they don't want to overstay their welcome, especially with these rockets coming out. Andy getting bodied a couple of times there and has to be cautious as they do get some decent healing to top it back up. Sonic there with the sound barrier, which is going to be vital for them as Bob comes out for Plato, seeing if they can get that extra member with Matmerk already getting 1 onto Hollow.
Bob even on the car, which now he's a mobile turret. And Matmerk getting first elimination. Bob will finally get eliminated, but Chosen coming out with an elimination onto No Sam. That's frontline main tank down for Utah. And now Sonic's down as well. They'll have to play even farther back. But No Sam even swapping over to the Wrecking Ball. Skyward ends up falling as well as Andy to Matmerk. Cart still contested by Need HP, trying to buy as much time as he can. With a great dynamite, that will lead to the Baby Diva going down.
3 minutes, lots of time to work with. 4 ultimates in the bank. Boise State, just now as they press forward, need to try and see if they can get a couple of nice picks. I like that Kel's playing this far forward, aggressively has the grab if anybody starts to push in for this final meter to this next checkpoint. But with Utah, they've got the amplification matrix. They're probably going to lead into that once we do have this payload look to peek the corner. But again, yes, nice pickup. 1-for-1 trade though now. Another nano boosted barrage. Though nobody's close enough together to get any value that time.
I mean, he did get Andy, so that is main heals down. But as the Wrecking Ball did go into the back line, and with the help of Need HP to take down Chosen, as Bagel could only res 1 and chose Plato. But there goes the hamster squill, taken down by Goblin, as well as Sonic falling. Boise State collapsed on the attack.
Toss a coin to your Goblin. The Pharah with rockets. The Pharah with rockets. Oh my goodness. They just need to stop this Pharah play. They've had the committance early with the Torbjorn and the turret, and it was working out, getting a crossfire, but now Hollow can't seem to find as much value, and every time Need HP is there to try and posture to give some contention, they're always out of the mech.
Yeah, so now going in with the Bob this time around. Hound trying to disrupt the front line. Tracer's in the back. Goblin's just 1v1 me, bro. And he won't take it.
Nope. He's going to say, come on, come at me, friend, as he go back to the front line. Looking to continue raining rockets from overhead. Can't really seem to contest against it. Plato Knight's going to try and dislodge and maneuver back as there's still some harassment. The crouching Tracer gets the health pack and survives. This 1v1's going to go on forever as Goblin just interjects and says, just end it, and moves on.
Yeah, he's got the AoE effect. He had a bit better luck than Plato did, just trying to spam hipfire with his lever action. So Matt Merck even taking down No Sam, showing I'm the better wrecking ball, bow to me. And now even the self-destruct coming out from Need HP, not able to land on anyone, forcing out the sound barrier from Sonic, trying to keep his team in the fight. So they're going to back off because they got 2 minutes on the board to burn, but they're not even going to let it go, with Plato bringing out Bob and gets the elimination against Sonic. Another Nano for Goblin, this time picking up nobody, but does force them to just back off that much more.
Yeah, Matt Merck actually going to collapse onto it. The low health value was there in the immortality field, forced out early, so it wasn't going to last long enough with Matt Merck jumping in, but Matt needs to be super careful as the picks come through. Matt and Bagel down. They've lost both supports. The Valkyrie couldn't come on in time, and Hollow's going to transition to this Tracer to try, or correction, this Widowmaker to see if they can try and find these angles for this last minute and 30 seconds.
Suddenly, Hollow on this Widow able to get both DPS down. Now Goblin's going to say, anything you can do, I can do better, and it is on the Widow. Have to wait and see, make that statement true. Boise State still sitting pretty with a ton of time, though.
Yeah, they do have a lot of time, trying to see exactly where they're going to maneuver to. Matt Merck has to be cognizant of this Widow play up top. They did notice it because the couple of pickups came through, so they're not completely surprised by it. Tracer in the back, nice drawback here to assist. If they can get rid of the Wrecking Ball, beautiful Bionade as well, and the No-Sam, but actually still gets out. They collapsed onto it. It's a flanking position. The self-destruct tossed into the choke point, which won't get any value, and Goblin and Chosen get the numbers advantage with 2 taken down.
Yeah, Amplification Matrix comes out, as well as the Valkyrie for Boise State. Now they're going to bring out their own self-destruct. Utah's not able to land on anyone. Now Hollow wins the 1v1 against Goblin, but Bagel is there with the res to make sure that 1v1 can go again. So close to that point, they just need to start pushing the car and take down D.Va out of her mech, and Plato will be able to take down No-Sam once again. No-Sam is always the first one to go down in these team fights as soon as he gets back from spawn. Now Plato says, I win this 1v1 against Hollow. This fight continues to draw on as Utah is just trickling in to try to contest this card.
Yeah, they've got the spawn advantage, but they're not going to come back in full numbers, and there's constant staggers coming through because Plato's continuing to do the damage necessary. Triple kill towards the end. The Doofus attempting with, like, the Tracer transition to see if they can touch it in time. Under 2 meters, overtime dwindles. That's going to be Boise State managing to take the second map and make it an even 1-1 score.
So we'll be heading to a map 3 on Escort, but Utah's fighting tooth and nail against Boise State right now. Tried to come out with a win. They got very close to it as well. Boise State barely able to edge them out at the tail end of that fight. So walk us through what Utah did that just barely lost them that last match.
I mean, it all really leads up to just one key factor is adjustment. Like, Utah towards the end of that finally recognized, okay, like we have to do something. Goblin is continuing to gain so much value when it came to, you know, the first and second position, but Furnace is where it does start to get a little punishing because you don't have the verticality. You don't have that free high range skybox that you can use just to your full advantage. It's a little bit more constraint. Even though there's still a decent maneuverability amongst those couple of higher platforms, it's not nearly as vertical. So they go more so for that type of hit scan. They bring out the Widowmaker. They try and counter it. But because their adjustment, Boise State in kind says, all right, friends, you're going to do it. As you said, anything you can do, I can do better. Goblin goes to the hit scan, finds a lot of value, and would now split focus onto Goblin's Widow. Plato is there to get so much more value because there's also a lot more agency for Matt Merce to play aggressively into the back line because now he's not having to commit to the Widowmaker play. He's actually having to now commit to the supports, and Hollow is having to look for Goblin. It's just this constant redirection of focus, and that's what really gives Boise State the opportunity to take this in the end. But I at least like where Utah's head is in this space to try and be able to counter Boise State as a whole.
So with Utah losing that and then getting to pick the map of Dorado, having just a huge problem with the pharmacy, and now we can see the return of it as well. Kind of a questionable map pick here because it really does favor the pharmacy here.
Yeah, again, verticality and a lot of architecture to really work through. There's just nice channels, especially when it comes to this initial point. You could utilize that bridgeway. You can utilize this center bell column. Even in the marketplace area, you have so much room to work with and a couple of really great corners to drop into if you feel that you're going to get vulnerable pushing out into this. But if we could take a look now at Utah, they've got Hollow instantly onto this Widowmaker because I think they know rightfully that this is a map that they were going to see Goblin once again on this Pharah, and they have to respond to it, but they're actually going to adjust onto this Echo play, which I don't think is a bad idea, but then this now puts a lot of pressure onto Need HP to be able to prevent Goblin from getting that serious value that we've seen previously.
Yeah, no mercy as well means the Sky Battles, if they do happen, will be in favor of the Broncos. I'll have to wait and see if that does play out as so, but also Skyward is going to have to try to hold down the ground game with No Sam, and with how often No Sam has been the first eliminated, it's going to be an uphill battle for them as Boise State has the double barrier strat of the Sigma and Orisa, so they can definitely hold them here at this arc rate for much longer than Utah can sustain.
Yeah. The only good thing is that the sticky bombs are going to be really helpful along with the tri-shot from Hollow to try and break those barriers. Skyward is going to be the part that's going to be interesting. How they look to try and influence this backline position, because the double barrier is significant. It's not like they've got something that can continue to pummel damage back to back. It's solely reliant onto Hollow with this Echo to try and dwindle those shields. And since the timing is so short for the Orisa to drop their shield versus, let's say, a Reinhardt who has to generate it over time, the Orisa can get a lot more value here, especially, and they need something to try and break it.
Yeah, we can even see all the sticky mines going onto Matt Merck's head, and he's fine. He barely lost a quarter of his HP. Thanks to just the backline of the healers. And right now, it's going to be also a lot on Skyward to try to disrupt that healing backline, but you have to get there first because so many of the members have called him out. And now opening up with Bob and a great sleep onto No Sam. Skyward will actually get the first elimination on the player. And another Nano Barrage. You'd hope Utah would have seen that coming by now.
I mean, Boise State just says, all right, allocate resources into Goblin and go.
I mean, it works. You just hope Utah would have been able to adapt to it by now.
It's just because they're not fully committing to something that could actually take on Goblin. Now they're going to do so. Hollow is on the Ashe, but you're at 1 minute and 30 seconds. If that would have been something that they came out the gate with to start with, I would have really liked to see that to try and punish this, because Goblin is already back at 40% to another Rocket Barrage.
Yeah, and he has the Valkyrie to back him up, as well as Hill's own Gravitic Flux to help set him up. Boise State has definitely been more liberal with their ultimates as the Supercharger comes out and then the Valkyrie comes out, and Utah just simply is going to have to back off here as they lose Hollow.
60 seconds now to go. Once they get Hollow back online, it's all do or die now. I'm really surprised that No Sam is going to play this aggressively. A well-timed accretion and a Bionate is going to make him have a real bad time. But does manage to get out here. Don't go down, Skyward. Oh, and forces the Pulse Bomb. Self-destruct too. Perfect. They're just trying to get much value that they can. Chosen goes down. No Sam almost eliminated, and finally they get a shred of opportunity to work with. Even though I was a little bit against some of the staggered ultimate play, it actually works out for them.
Yeah, the double ults trying to just split the target. Good shot too. Who Utah finally brought it back. They just needed to use every ult that they had.
And it's more so that Hollow's actually getting some decent sightlines on this Ashe. That's the most critical part of this. If these shots don't land, it's over for Utah. They have so much riding on Hollow's shoulders to mitigate Goblin and to keep presence on this high ground. Hollow gets picked up here with that bomb as well, but unfortunately is going to be... No, this is a little bit of a rock and a hard place. Nice recovery as Rocket Barrage comes in again. And Boise State dominating the high ground.
Yeah, still, Boise State has held on to this high ground and eliminated Hollow, which means they should theoretically win the fight, because Skyward's just been stuck on the ground the whole time. He hasn't really been able to engage with how much verticality is on this map, being that Tracer. Same with Sonic and Andy as they get taken down. Sonic has a little bit more chances of competing in these team fights, but Andy's just left on the card.
Play-Doh's Ashe is just so fluid. It just watching that transition from the low to high ground and getting juggled around. Yeah, you know, of course I say that. I give a compliment and then instantly I regret my decision. I don't though. But it is really, really stellar. And when you've got Bagel pocketing them like that, it's just gonna be a real bad time for Utah trying to push into this. Now that they've only got a minute and 30 seconds to go, they need to get this Bob online and to try and use. But once again, goes down to Play-Doh.
Play-Doh's just been winning this consistent 1v1 against Hollow. And I know it's not truly a 1v1 since he has the pocket healer, but also just trying to take down Skyward has been such an issue for him. But Skyward hasn't gotten the value, even using Pulse Bomb, not getting an elimination with it, or even landing on anybody. Bagel bringing out the Valkyrie to just keep his teammates alive. Gravitic Flux coming out from Kel, and the Mines coming out from Matt Merck as well, just trying to stop Utah pushing its tracks.
And up on the high ground, you do see Hollow managing to finally claim some dominance. Bob also giving some presence in the back position near the minefield. Utah is at a position with 50 seconds now to go that they can reach this last checkpoint. They've completely eliminated Boise State, but there's going to be one last contention opportunity. Chosen does have the Nano, and Goblin will be able to rotate onto this Tracer and have the Pulse Bomb. Kel actually going to opt to go onto this D.Va as well for the combination of mitigation with this defense matrix and also to potentially harass Hollow, because Hollow is actually getting a ton of value now. And Play-Doh stuck in a corner, gets nanoed to survive because they just need to look for a contention, and actually gets a couple of, well, gets one, almost gets the second, but the Brig Shield still stands tall and forces out a Transcendence down below.
Yeah, +2. And now Hollow even swapping over to the Doomfist, and he uses Transcendence, isn't able to stay alive from it as he ends up falling to the Pulse Bomb to Goblin, who's now on the Tracer. Big swaps coming in. Bagel now even swapping over from the Mercy to the Brit. A good D.Va Bomb taking down Matt Merck, and Hollow now back with this Doomfist takes on Play-Doh very quickly. As Sonic takes down Kel, they're winning the brawl on the card.
Sport now going to come in and try and give some opportunity to sustain, but again, there's already far too few gone. You've got a minute and 30 seconds now. The real challenging part is this last tail end of it is a challenging one. You have to be so cognizant in knowing how you're going to play that catwalk, the upper ground position, and try and see if you can get that advantage, especially now that Hollow has taken another adjustment onto this Hanzo, utilizing that to get those Storm Arrows onto the shields, bringing them down, and making sure that they can keep Matt Merce constantly falling back and forcing out early fortifications because their shield can't withstand the damage with the Storm Arrows.
Yeah, and a good sign for Goblin getting that pick onto Skyward so early on. Seems he can just predict Tracers very well. He did on King's Row, doing it again.
Yeah. Just knows how to read that play very, very well when it comes to Tracer. Downloaded Skyward. Now Bob's going to come in, in that corridor, blocking off a couple. They're left in the corner, and this is going to be a chance to instantly just basically fish in a barrel. That's the closest thing I could say to that.
I mean, with 30 seconds remaining, if they can just kind of stagger out the members of Utah, that could be it. 20 seconds remaining. Utah has pretty much time for one stagger team fight. They just have to run for it. They don't even have the Lucio for the speed boost to the card. They're really running this down to the wire.
10 seconds.
10 seconds now remaining. Both ultimates available for Boise State on the support line. Kel also having the self-destruct, which is critical to try and zone them away as they actually take this fight once again into stairways. Anybody going to get there to contest? They manage to do so. Overtime commencing. Self-destruct barreling through. Lob it in the back line. Gets two with a D-Mech as well. This is Boise State dominating once again in this streets position for this map, and I have to give Boise State a lot of credit. I'm talking like historically, when I've seen them at Q Invitational, when I've seen them when it comes to collegiate previously, when I've casted it with Kenobi, that typically on these payload stages, they've not been as, I think, dominant when it comes to being able to prevent the payload from reaching its final position. And the fact that this has been game after game, that Boise State has managed to be able to stop it just before its completion, setting a goal for themselves to know where they have to work towards, has been so great and rewarding to see in their development and what they've been able to do moving forward with their players. And that's something I think that's really going to help them get to the point of where they can actually take this back and continue to do well to lead them into a possible position of the top 16.
So now on the attack, the return of Pharmacy, question mark? I would hope so.
Double question mark?
I mean, yeah. with Utah now on the defense and already showing a May, and I believe they're going back with Hollow on the Ashe, back to the Pharmacy. Plato's still on the Ashe as well. Double bubble this time, though, with Chosen still on the Ana, but this time Skyward on the May and not the Tracer. May into Pharmacy? All right.
I mean, again, it's because they're trying to slow... Because they know that Macwork's going to play something aggressive. So using the May is going to allow them to try and isolate and separate him from the team.
Isolate?
Problem is...
Isolate?
Well, I mean, when he goes in, they're going to try and just lock him down to the best they can and keep him away. Because Hell's Shield, the last couple of times, has been helpful, but it's not withstood enough damage, which realistically is an opportunity for Utah to take the chance and eliminate Matt Merck. And again, here comes this dive. Lots of presence. The damage isn't too high, so that Matt Merck's going to be able to get out of this scot-free. But if they continue to do so, and you do find yourself close in proximity to Skyward, Matt Merck's just going to be a sitting duck.
I mean, it was bad timing on that leap because as soon as he went in, Goblin fell down to 9 HP. So definitely had to just say, all right, we have to back off because we don't have the sky control anymore. But now they have the high ground control and pushing so far pretty comfortably through the archway. Both tanks off to the side, not even contesting the cart right now. And continue to push forward, even forcing out the amplification matrix from Andy, not near the cart.
Yeah, Andy has to put that into motion because they need to try and get some damage onto Boise State to stop this aggression forward. They do actually stem the bleeding for the moment. They don't allow them to play forward. Nice sleep around the shield, by the way, Chosen, as they're nearing this nano boost along with Bagel with the Valkyrie, so they'll have quite a bit to put into this. Kel's going to be aggressively up front. You can hear the sound from that charge. Plus 80%. You're just going to be sending them all back to spawn with the sound of burn in the earpiece.
Yeah, they engaged on that fight perfectly. They took down Andy, immediately went for the break, and just cycled around and eliminated everybody else. Boise State had that target prioritization that they needed, even finishing off Skyward last. No. So the May cannot recontest. It's going to be a 5v6 for this final fight due to the respawn timers, and it's going to be Bob who's going to contest.
Barrage now to boot to give assistance into that narrow corridor as Matt Merck goes to the Primal Rage. Everything's stacking up in favor of Boise State, and they're doing this and need to complete this checkpoint right now with a decent timing so that they can gain a lot more momentum compared to how Utah was. Rez comes through, also gets an elimination with that Valkyrie play, and now 4 minutes and 15 seconds. This is a good time bank for them to work through this position, and this can be the most challenging because, again, if you can see... Oh, Hollow's actually going to rotate onto the Reaper for this?
Maybe Matt Merck's just that much of a problem for him at this point.
But that just puts them in an even worse scenario, is that if they're having to now commit the one thing... Yeah, the one thing that could really compete against Goblin, they've taken the Ashe out of the equation and now go for more so this close combat brawly nature with the Reaper to try and shut down Matt Merck when he dives in. Grab onto the corner, we're gonna... Okay, it does grab a couple, that's good. I was a little concerned, but it does get value. And now a Blizzard Supercharger and the Amplification Matrix have been committed. A lot from Utah spent to just try and hold them here.
I mean, at least Hollow got the elimination of Matt Merck. He accomplished his one job that he had of kill Monkey. But surprising victory in that team fight for Utah. It started off pretty rough, especially with an interesting grab, but I guess it makes sense since he swapped over to the Diva now to try to contest the high ground, and with so much of this verticality of this second checkpoint, totally understandable as to why, but they're going to have to worry about now their Utah self-destruct as well as the rally only having the barrage online. They're going to need to try to demec that Diva first for target prioritization, and a great sleep on the no Sam forces out the rally for Utah to try to hit that re-engagement.
Look at how uncomfortable Need HP though was. You could just see with that camera angle, constant rotation of vision. Back, down, right, balcony, back, catwalk, down, constantly. Gets a self-destruct finally after taking a patient evaluation of the situation. But again, when you're putting Utah into a position of that they have to check every corner, that is not a healthy place to be.
Yeah, Boise State keeping you on your toes, always trying to figure out where you're going to go, but Hollow once again gets the elimination on Matt Merck, who's now swapping over to the Reinhardt. Might have gotten fed up with going into a Reaper, but Right
you
now,
know?
it's not really the best to deal with a Reaper of all people, as they are both the close-range melee equivalents. And a great Death Blossom from the top row. It's gonna go right onto Bagel.
Instantly shut down, though. Great responsiveness from Kel with the defense matrix to mitigate those shots, along with the Bionade to land, so it yields no value. And that's going to force a swap now onto Ash. Once again, this constant change-up is something that Utah is really trying to use to their advantage, but I think sometimes if there's a little bit of an overcommitment to some of their swaps, I think they could have... No, they went back to the Reaper now. So again, they're not really sure themselves, but this is perfect for Boise State, because if they're putting this perplexity and this lack of confidence in their selection, making Utah really, really have a disadvantage.
Yeah, Plato just trying to figure out where to go, as Hollow still just holding off that side room. Now Goblin on the Cole Cassidy trying to poke and pull away. Need HP just going to go right into his face, take the flashbang. Even forces out the mines from No Sam to just buy them that much more time. Only a minute remaining to try to cap this final point. Boise State very split up right now. Will finally end up taking the high ground and use the nano onto Matt Merck to try to secure this card.
The nano was necessary to put that onto Merc to make sure that they can continue doing damage and also survive through whatever's going to come through. But Hollow actually deviates away. Goblin gets the pickup. This is going to be a checkpoint reached, and now moving into these final stages. But again, the time bank, not much more than where we saw Utah. Only 30 seconds extra to try and reach that position. So it's more than enough time for them to do it. It's just, will Utah be able to rotate their ultimate economy to allow sustainability against Boise, who has quite a bit of an ultimate economy of their own?
Yeah, it's 3-3 with the self-destruct amplification matrix and rally for the side of Utah. So they definitely have the support ults to try to out-sustain as Chosen swaps over to the Bap and Bagel onto the Brig, but they're going to have to deal with the 4 offensive ults of both tanks and both DPSs for Boise State. And with No Sam falling very low and the amplification matrix coming out, Boise State can simply line aside it and waste that ult.
Oh, great pickup. Plato on the back position manages to get the shutdown onto Andy. Self-destruct also dislodges everyone from the high ground because it landed onto the catwalk. 2 come through. Blizzard to counter. Skyward doing what they can to maintain presence near this cart so that Boise State just doesn't roll over onto it. But Bagel swapping onto this vital Brigitte allows them to get the stun and crowd control necessary in the back to isolate Skyward, despite them having the immortality field and having any sort of ability to survive through it. You've got Boise State pushing forward. They just need to reach it, and they do. This is the first time as well that we've actually had Boise State manage to take a victory over Utah. 7 previous matchups have been favored for Utah. So this was not only a win for Boise State to be able to get closer and closer to reaching to that top 16 slot, but it's also a moment to show that they can beat an adversary who has constantly been the superior, and now for once saying that they are more so than the Utah team.
Yeah, definitely a nail-biter of a match, and Boise State finally able to edge them out and come out on top. So huge prop to them, and they still got 2 more best-of-3s ahead of them. So make sure to stay tuned for those, and we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick break.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your guard adventure.
Here are a couple lessons I've learned over the years. Friendships come in all shapes and sizes. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
He's now Kel's going to go in with Gravitic Flux right onto the Baptiste, but he forces out the Immortality field. They are able to pick up 2 more Bolt tanks down. Now Sonic down as well.
40 seconds to go, but now this is a
Blizzard.
go moment. Utah has to come in with a transcendence of their own as the Blizzard locks down one. Andy low, but still getting covered and topped up by Sonic. Left out in the back as Bagel takes him out of the fight. 25 seconds to go. This is final moments for Utah, and they don't have much to their name. Mirage into the back, attempting with the Diva to mitigate it, but they actually get D-Maxed on their way up, so they can't use the defense matrix to prevent the damage as Goblin finds another amongst the hotel. Oh my, that's going to be a nice pickup here for Boise State with still a decent amount of time on the bank as Andy gets popped. Oh, you had time.
I mean, he did get Andy, so that is main heals down. But as the Rex Call did go into the back line, I mean, with the help of Need HP to take down Chosen, as Bagel could only res one and chose Play-Doh. But there goes the hamster squill taken down by Goblin, as well as Sonic falling. Boise State collapsed on the attack, but you have to get there first because so many of the members have called him out, and now opening up with Bob and a great sleep onto No Sam. Skyward will actually get the first elimination on the player, and another Nano Barrage. You'd hope Utah would have seen that coming by now.
I mean, Boise State just says, all right, allocate along with Bagel with the Valkyrie, so they'll have quite a bit to put into this. Kel's going to be aggressively up front. You can hear the sound from that charge. Plus 80%. You're just going to be sending them all back to spawn with the sound of brrrr in the earpiece.
Yeah, they engaged on that fight perfectly. They took down Andy and
Hello and welcome into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We are currently broadcasting the tiebreaker for the 3-way tie. This matchup tonight is Illinois versus Boise State, trying to win top 16 position in the ABC tournament right now. Our first map tonight is going to be Lijiang against these first 2 teams. I am your host, Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and joining me tonight is Richard Richrad Pontillo to call all of the action. And I have to ask, just for this matchup and Boise State moving on into the top 16, what specific micro plays are you looking for Boise State to improve upon if they want to go top 16 and beyond that?
I touched a little bit on it earlier when it came to some of the other games, but I'll emphasize it again, where they have to just it's almost like you've got the horse in the buggy and they've got the blinders on to make sure they're going straight. Like, there's making sure that they've got their focus, which is great, but if you allow them to be too hyper focused and maybe too aggressive to the point of where they can be easily punished because they're just kind of getting in that mentality of this is the only outcome that we look to do, or this is the only type of aggressive play that we want to bring to the table, it can be punished. We saw Utah do it a couple of times earlier in this previous one. So going into this one, which again, this is do or die moment. This is you going to playoffs or not. So I cannot wait to see what Boise is going to bring in on these games against Illinois. And I live in Illinois. I didn't go to I'm not their alma mater, but it's like I'm like rooting just overall. Like, this is just going to be a great match, and I can't wait to see how it's going to unfold.
What are some specific strategies that you think either team can use to great effect on Lijiang here?
It really depends when it comes to the map type. I mean, if we go on to Gardens, Goblin's going to be on Pharah, period. I mean, to be fair, you could probably see it really on even. I mean, you can see it both on Night Market and Gardens specifically. Control Center is a little lighter. I would more so see Goblin potentially transitioning onto either like a Junkrat or to a Reaper, because we've seen that before. That's something that has come to great value when it comes to the DPS line. But it's also just really kind of keeping an eye on what the tank selection is going to be too, because with this one, we've been seeing a little bit more of a Reinhardt play kind of enter in here for Boise State. It's not often, but it has been forced almost. It's forced their hand to play something off of either this Winston or this Wrecking Ball, which I've really, really liked to see how there has been this change up. And even now we can take a look at it here. It's going to be, Mattmer coming out on this Reinhardt instead of seeing what we've typically known with the Wrecking Ball, with that, Winston play. So I'm curious, with the Symmetras coming in from both sides, they're going to come in hyper fast and laying waste instantly to Illinois out the gate, to be honest.
Merck is going to get that elimination onto Frenchie, and that is just kind of unfortunate there on the side of Illinois. Boise State just kind of rolled through that fight, and as the team that won the first fight, they've won the right to stay on the Symmetra.
So this is the one few times where I say focus and blinders works though. Even though I mean, again, like because it's this really fine balance, and that's the important thing, is you have to just get this really perfect gray area of where it just works out in your favor. And Boise State's really been the one to do that. I have to commend them for what they've elevated since the last real time I've seen them compete in something like even Q Invitational, the most recent one that I've watched.
We kind of hear those Doomfists, so they're looking for an off angle. The Goblin's going to go in, both of them get the punch. Neither one of them is going to find value on either punch. Matt Merck is going to go ahead and drop the shadow.
Oh!
The whole team out. Unfortunately, no eliminations will come from that. We see Goblin in the back line, as he occasionally does, and usually to great success. Plato's just going to go ahead and try to burn some people down with the laser. Their chopper is going to go down, but so is Kel. Marvel, Boise State is up 2, now up 3 with the elimination of Frenchie, and with the final elimination onto Crimson and 4, that is a team kill for the side of Boise State.
I have to give credit to Marble, though, because that Earth Shatter, the reason that they were able to live as long as they did with that is because of the timing and positioning from Marble from Illinois.
Definitely.
So that's given them the longevity that they need to potentially recover from this, but unfortunately, with that being said, Boise State's still able to persevere through it, and because Plato just continues to go further and further in these fights, generating the charge of the beam, it is just so much damage that you can't mitigate it. But that's a nice lead here with Frenchie getting the Doomfist out of the play.
Unfortunately, the Boise State is down 1. The both wall and amplification matrix will come out, as Thor is going to get eliminated to that fire strike through the amplification matrix. The old cheeky strat, and with Marvel down 2, you gotta think that's a push in for Illinois over there.
Nice elimination. And this is the Symmetra play. This is Plato just coming in. The longer this fight goes, it is only going to favor the Symmetra player. So with Silly getting taken out early, not being able to charge up as nicely as they would have liked, they're opting now to swap onto the Pharah. What a clip onto Marble with this self-destruct. And that's going to be 100-0 here for Boise State. I mean, we were talking about this being Group A, and this is the defining factor for somebody to go into playoffs. I mean, Boise State's coming out the gate saying, we want it.
We want it, and we want it really, really bad. Sorry, Illinois, but we definitely are going to try to win this with everything we've got. And Boise State had just the perfect amount of aggression, because everybody's on point, everybody's being aggressive. And that Symmetra, you got to think after losing the first Symmetra fight, you should probably swap off of Symmetra at that point. The team that gets there first with the Symmetra and wins the fight is the one that earns the right to stay on the Symmetra. And the other one should probably swap, because we didn't see a whole lot of value off of that sim.
There's occasions that you see it sometimes. If let's say they managed to get like an ultimate that was really close, you can kind of favor into it, but I highly agree with you that it was not necessary to keep going forward, as Plato, as I commented earlier, is going to, actually it was Goblin, I thought, who was going to play the Junkrat, but it's more Plato that's going to be bringing it out here. And it's going to be a great success, getting a lot of damage up front, but unfortunately, Illinois is able to bamboozle out the gate and make Boise State have to rethink their point of entry this time. And now since they have the advantage with Chopper and the Symmetra, we'll see Goblin look to stick onto it for now and take one more attempt, especially utilizing that TP to try and get a reposition onto Illinois.
Boise State got chosen eliminated first, and that was the end of that fight here, so hopefully we won't repeat that as Matt Mark is taken down so weak with that Junkrat spam there. He dropped his shield for half a second, and oh my gosh, Plato will be the first eliminated. Not looking good for Boise State, especially with the lack of the immortality field there. Kel at this point is just going to back off, and understandable for the side of Boise State there. You're down one and you don't have the ammo. Back out, wait for you to get it again.
And at this point, Boise State has to know that the Riptire is online. Same thing with the, well, there's going to be actually the Riptire into the Amplification Matrix. 2 out the gate, too, here for Illinois.
2 at the gate on the main healer, and then immediately after that, the main tank came down, and that's the fight end for Boise State. And at this point, Illinois has used their big aggressive ultimates, right? Because if a Diva Bomb gets value through a Reinhardt shield and a Baptiste Immortality field, something is very, very wrong.
55% in climbing. There should be potentially 2 more attempts here if the fights are quick and consecutive. But with Boise State now looking to play a little bit, well, actually they're going to go right in. The Photon Barrier comes out to divide and conquer both of them. But now this has just been completely walled off into the center. They have to bob and weave between the walls. Chosen on the high ground, attempting to mitigate out of the way with Frenzy's self-destruct, but gets 2. And this once again is in favor of Illinois State. They've taken some of the aggression from Boise State in the Gardens map, or correction, in the Night Market map, and now done it to them on control.
Bagel's barely going to live there. It feels like Boise State has not had a foot to stand on since that first fight there, and maybe this will be the fight here as they're starting this next fight up 1 because Chopper overstayed their welcome and went too far.
Fire now going to come out. Plato has to find value with this. Does get 2. Support being one of them, which is massive. There's no way that Thor is going to be able to keep the team alive solely with their utility and area of effect healing, and that's an instant swap at 99.
Boise State is in a really, really tough position, though, because they have to play perfectly from here on out. They can't lose a single fight. That's the nature of 99-0.
With Crimzo having this Earth Shatter, that's an opportunity if they find a flanking position to really compete against Boise State, but they have read this very well and know that they are looking to take this middle high ground position. Now with the Riptire going to come through, attempting to find some opportunities again. Does get 2, but it's only the Lucio. Potentially going to have Chosen maybe... Oh, never mind. That's going to be done and dusted.
And that's the fight there. Riptires, this fight have been absolutely huge on both sides. Each one getting 2 people, 1 support, and main healers in 2 of those 3 as Crimson's going to eliminate Kel and Chopper's going to eliminate Bagel. That's kind of the end of the Boise State push here, and hopefully they can just bring it back for map 3.
I mean, for those tuning in, this is the type of intensity of a game that defines whether or not you get into playoffs. I mean, this is what you want to see.
We were expecting definitely an uphill battle. These are 2 teams that are relatively evenly matched, and both of them really, really want to make these playoffs. This is a high-stakes game between 2 high-skill-level teams. We're expecting it to go back and forth all night. So the fact that Lijiang went to map 3 is really not a surprise to anybody, but Boise State definitely has the ability to pull it out, though we're not seeing the Goblin Pharma strats that have been super, super dominant tonight.
Yeah, that's the most interesting part of it. And again, this might just be something where, you know, in the moment, kind of reading your opponent and understanding what type of compositions that they're bringing out, it might not be as favorable. Maybe there's a little bit more cohesion and responsiveness that comes out from Illinois, managing to, gets the boom through the off the edge, and going to get another onto Chopper. Quad kill from Bagel. What a way to come out the gate, and such beautiful coordination on this Lucio play.
We love to see the Bagel rollouts. We love it even more when it's a quad kill in such a high-stakes game like this. Bagel just handed us first fight, and here we go. Now we just have to defend the point.
You got to check the mental on Illinois after that one. That's just how you look at it. You're like, I'm sorry, let me go into therapy after that. You're gonna...
Therapy because of Bagel's rollout.
I mean, they were toasted. No,
May's going to be taken pretty low there. Frenchie is going to take out Chosen, not looking pretty good for the second fight here, as Matt Merck is also going to go down. Bagel handed us first fight. Frenchie's handing them second fight, and just with that quad kill themselves, just with the Diva Rocket, and Chosen going down first is never what you want to see in that fight there, especially because we were down our Symmetra already. And at this point, we might have to swap the Symmetra because we might not be able to get back on point with it.
I'm really impressed with the return from the tank line. Crimzo and, as you mentioned, Frenchie, really actually came out big on that recontest. It wasn't nearly as much of the supports. Chopper did still put out a lot of damage, but Frenchie came in with every one of those executions. As now you've got Boise State maneuvering through that white room position. Teleporter going to be there to try and actually go for a flanking position. Bagel leads in with the sound barrier, but it only lands onto 2, and it divides Boise State. They don't all get the buff, and now Illinois with their own sound barrier manages to hold on to this, and that's the only real thing committed. I actually would have liked to see both Marble and Chopper not commit those ultimates to that and solely rely on Thor with the sound barrier to just counteract Bagels.
But because they use those ultimate, Boise State is in a slightly better position here. If we can choose to use the amplification matrix maybe aggressively here. The Symmetra wall might be worth waiting for here if we can wall on the point, but at this point, I don't know if Symmetra is the pick.
Wall divides 1. Oh no, Matt Merck's in trouble. They finally get through the wall, thankfully there to give some assistance. He's alive, that's all that matters. Photon barrier divides the room. Amplification matrix still going to give benefit for those that paint the inner columns. Self-destruct forces back multiple members, but it doesn't get enough damage for Illinois State to be able to eliminate them as they still continue to round the inner corner. Thor spinning around the center to try and give some mobility and healing here to Crimzo up front, who's now on the outskirts. Kel laying rockets into them with Goblin alongside them, and they take it away now, climbing from their 30%. Actually, they're just going to try and buy some time up to 99%. That's the goal here.
Hopefully this is not a situation like it was before with Boise State losing it immediately at the 99 here, because 93 is not that different than 99. You barely have a contest if you can get bodies on point at all. You definitely don't have a full team recontest here if Boise State loses it in the next 60%.
But with 2 ultimates online ready, Plato nearing that Blizzard, which will be available for this engagement, as you can see it pop online. I would really like to see Bagel get this sound barrier before this next engagement, just so that they have it as an insurance policy. Self-destruct tucked into the back. Wall actually holds it! It doesn't make it go all the way in the back, so the swivel from the Reinhardt shield doesn't get full coverage onto Chopper. And now pressing forward, Blizzard gonna be committed. Kel is also looking to just continue to harass with Bagel, looking for a flank, and another boom! Ricochets off the wall! I'm sorry, they tried to knock you into your seat, but you bounced real hard off that one.
And at this point now, Boise State needs to continue to ult aggressively, especially as Illinois is almost ahead of them in the ultimate economy once they get these next couple charged here. The shatter, the wall, the sound barrier, and honestly, the Diva Mech could get charged this fight as well. Boise State needs to ult first if they want to keep this point.
Photon barrier now leading in from Goblin. Divide and conquer attempting to try and see if they can claim this fight to game this first map. Sound barrier now comes out from Thor. Barely gets most of the players, but Crimzo is outside of its radius. An immortality field is the only thing keeping them alive as Boise State turns it back. Bagel playing it all over again. It's like on repeat on that wall. And this corner boops them back into the riverbank down below. There's a lot of koi fish swimming around Chopper. And I gotta tell you right now, I need to know what Bagel's favorite bagel is, because I'm priority shipping a dozen next day for them to have tomorrow morning with some extra cream cheese.
That was probably like 12 boops over the course of that map, starting off
that's why I'm
with
giving him a dozen.
And then just at least got one. Every
One
fight.
a boop. A bagel a boop. A bagel a boop. We're gonna get a replay of it too. That's what's gonna happen.
Perfect.
Look at how clean this is.
Look at that.
Look at how clean this is. And then comes back for a second where, like I said, this is the deja vu moment. There were 3 other independent occasions that Bagel was able to do that. If anybody watches this and, you know, is looking to like continue seeing how Boise State is playing, you cannot play like this against Bagel on a Lucio.
You absolutely can't, because Bagel consistently does this rollout and consistently gets the quad kill or the triple kill or the whatever right off on point. That's part of the reason why people struggle running Symmetra strats against Boise State, especially on this map. It's on this map almost solely because of Bagel and that first fight, Boop, that he regularly pulls off.
What a way to start it off, though. Again,
yeah.
you put yourself now onto a match point where you just have to look to taking this next game, and then it allows yourself to, again, because if I looked at the standings correctly, it showed that it was essentially a three-way tie here. So this is a defining factor to be able to have 2 of the 3 go through. Boise State, Illinois Orange, which of course they're facing against, and then UCI Esports. So I mean, it's a great way to boost the morale and make yourself feel confident going into this next game. But again, we can't count Illinois Orange out, because if we eliminate those very valuable boops, like, not to discredit them, those were significant factors, that was not really allowing Illinois to get back into this more favorably. And I think that changing a style of map, different little bit of a loadout, could make this start going in the other direction, because Illinois was still very responsive to a lot of Boise State's play. And, you know, going into this next map, I would not be surprised to see them having a little bit more of a formidable opportunity, but only time will tell. This could be just a 2-0 quickly from Boise State.
They went 93-100, so I doubt, even as a diehard Boise State fan, I doubt it will be a clean 2-0 victory. I definitely do think Boise State has them within this to benefit, but you're absolutely right. Craft individual play is somewhat map dependent and not reliable, and Maxwell's going to go down first, which takes away a little bit of the crackedness of the Boise State team here, as Matt Merck is going to quickly follow that. And it looks like, as Chosen follows after, the remaining members of Boise State just need to get out or get eliminated pretty quickly.
Yeah, we're going to hop right into this Kings Row map, where it will be Boise State on the attacking position, Illinois on the defense, getting a decent hold initially, and as you mentioned, a couple of early picks to make it challenging to recover, but the respawn advantage is there, so they do get in quickly, but have to keep an eye onto Marble and also Crimzo, who have a very high percent towards their ultimate.
I think Chopper is also somebody to watch out for just because of the individual skill level. Chosen.
Oh, that's beautiful, though.
Thor, that's huge. And especially
Crimzo goes down.
Boise State's up 2. One of them's a main tank. Chopper's going to go down to Maxwell. Bagel's going to go ahead and get Marble. And you got to think that's this fight for Boise State at this point.
Yeah, they've lost way too much right now. Their resources are no ability to recover from this. Their spawn is so far away. So Boise, after their, initial engagement, finds a big pickup, and it's solely reliant on Thor, because when you get rid of that Lucio, Crimzo loses so much mobility. There's no way that they get out of that, even with a Maywall trying to separate and divide and potentially redirect some of the channeled presence. But Matt just takes full advantage of it, shuts down Crimzo, and that opens the door wide open.
And Boise State is actually going to push up to open this door even more here.
Plato.
The wall is going to come out and the ice barrier, and the second wall is going to come out, preventing Boise State from really doing what they want to do. But the Shatter is going to come out, get some good damage on the Crimson. Plato will get eliminated, which is going to hurt Boise State at least a little bit here, as Matt Merck has dropped down to 137 and immediately eliminated after that. Boise State was a little too aggressive, and just like you were talking about, their aggression level's at a 120. They need to dial it down to about a 100.
Yep, 195-ish. And I get the understanding you want to make sure that you get enough distance so that this payload can move through this archway, but now you find yourself in the same place. It's repeating history, where you maybe want to just play a little bit closer to the payload and to get that support so you're not getting caught out. Attempting to reposition back into this, Deadeye is going to be denied for the moment, as there is a counter one from Chopper, both not gaining any value. Blizzard tossed a little short here, but tossed in from Silly Phil in the back position, locks down multiple more, but you're right, Bagel with the sound barrier might be able to equalize and continue pushing forward.
Bomb's going to get no value there. Matt Merck running around. Marble's going to get the elimination on the Chosen, which is real bad for Boise State here, especially. And Matt Merck is, of course, going to follow immediately after that. But the Boise State members are still pushing forward and trying to get eliminations and cart pressure here. And Plato, I am genuinely concerned about your well-being. Even as Bagel and Maxwell get picks onto both Marble and Chopper, Pell's going to go ahead and go down and lose the Battle of the Devils to Frenchie there. And Boise State still has the cart, actually. They're going to go ahead and end up winning that fight.
Chosen and Bagel were just hyper-focusing Play-Doh. Like, they just want to sit at their children's table and, like, make a castle out of Play-Doh. If anybody gets that reference, I'm so glad, because that just shows my age. I do not. We'll digress on that. It's okay. Well, it's okay. We'll digress, as we do see aggression coming out here from Boise State. Pushing forward, the wall comes in. Blizzard still in the chamber, not yet expended. Waiting for that defense matrix to drop. There's the lockdown, so it's a free Blizzard, and this should be Boise pushing through.
Matt Merck is the price, and usually you don't want to pay your main tank as the price, but the price for a one fight, I'd say that's pretty good for Boise State. The wall's going to come out, attempting to stagger this Baptiste. Will they be able to get him? They are going to get Margot with a boop, no less. You've got to send Bagels some more bagels than that.
Now, yeah. Now I want bagels. We keep talking about it. Now I do want bagels. Is you do have a couple of ultimates online for Illinois. You do have Bolt DPS, Blizzard specifically from Silly Phil, so that should be able to halt this aggression to try and recover from this. Leading actually in with Chopper. There's a big retreat from Boise State. They are not going to go into that open space because they know that it is a dangerous spot to be, but a self-destruct tucked into the back is denied. Crimzo stunned, trying to eliminate him as a Blizzard comes out from Silly Phil, and that's what they need to commit to try and turn this back in their favor.
Boise State's going to go ahead and back up because we've lost that fight. Kells especially just going to go off the edge of the maps, deny them any potential ult charge they might be willing to get. Chosen and the rest of the team. That wall actually helped Boise State out there. And Boise State members are able to get out and get back to Chosen without giving Illinois any more ult charge than they already have.
Self-destruct to come out to counter. Frenchie, no value. Does get a little bit of damage, though. Isn't going to be significant enough to eliminate others. You've got Amplification Matrix now actually thrown into this from Illinois State on the defensive side. They're trying to see if they can funnel enough damage onto Boise State aggressively in these last few meters, but look at where Matt's positioned. Seeing if they can try and get a backline aggression, as well as Bagel playing up top to eliminate their Baptiste play on Marble, and they're just completely routing Illinois State.
Boise State really shouldn't have used the sound barrier, especially after their Baptiste was already down, because that would have been better used for a fight that was going to be won instead of just like kind of like a time-wasting stall that they just did there. The minute the Baptiste is down, especially approaching this third checkpoint on Kings Row, sometimes this third checkpoint can kind of feel like 2CP just because they respawn so fast and you are like 2 corners away. You're down your main heals, you've lost that fight.
Now Maxwell moving in. It's actually risen, but picked up by Illinois. That's just a bad time, friend. You're thinking, I'm going to get a clever positioning. Well, easily punished. As Chosen in the back tries to fuel. Big Shatter comes out onto 3. Boise State now being locked down, and this Furnace positioning is one of the more challenging to push through, and this is a perfect example why Illinois State is holding this corner with a just solid castle defense, with a moat even.
With a moat even. And there were Boise State, the Shatter was big, the Immortality Field was whiffed, and that was just the end of that fight because they were already down 1 there. As the Amplification Matrix is going to come out, Boise State is just going to go ahead and wait that out, which actually is the wise play.
Now with 60 seconds to go, this is the final moments. Frenchie does have the self-destruct now online with Silly Phil leading with the Blizzard. Can't be eaten since you did have Kel up top. Dropping down.
No.
Shatter taken out before getting value. The stun only, I believe, landed onto Frenchie, and now Boise State has to fall back. Plato and Matt need to be alive for this final exchange.
And they do have the time. They just have this last fight here to get Plato back into reset. Unfortunate that they lost the Shatter. And we will probably not have any other ultimates other than Amplification Matrix and Bomb, which historically have not gotten a ton of value for Boise State this series of matches.
And Matrix now leading in, Chosen trying to get a lot of damage through it. The Immortality Field comes out early. Bolt actually expended with a pickup onto Marble. Crimzo and Chopper, one after another. Counter bomb comes in by Frenchie, but it's not enough. The respawn advantage favors Illinois here, but I'm not sure they're actually going to be able to accumulate all 6 members to try and change this over for a decent contest.
But Boise State doesn't have main heals either, so they're also in a really, really uncomfortable position where they can't be as aggressive as they want to. And that's all 6 members for the side of Illinois right there on the card.
Trying to buy some time. They do have a few seconds because the overtime dwindles a lot slower upon its initial start, but the longer this goes, the faster it is. The Shatter lands onto Crimzo. Crimzo gets covered by Marble. Almost has a Shatter themselves. The healing is unbelievable, but Marble and Crimzo go down. Thor gets a counter boot with a sound barrier just to give him enough to survive through this, and now the spawn advantages are huge. Chopper in the back with the Deadeye finds Cal out of the mech, and because they have such close proximity to this, Illinois State with the Blizzard will be able to force back Boise and cut it short just before its completion.
I would say that bomb cost Boise State some valuable aggression when all 6 members were like coming out of spawn. Boise State could have collapsed individually on those members if they had had the Baptiste healing, but they didn't because of some clever Diva Bomb on the point, which makes total sense. I think it just cost Boise State those extra 3.94 meters that could be especially huge because we are playing to go into the top 16 right now.
Whew. All right. We've had Boise State so far all day previously set the goalpost. Now Illinois managed to set the goalpost for themselves. So let's see if they're going to be able to complete it, or Boise State managing to hold on defensively to allow themselves to enter into that top 16 playoff position for next weekend. Or this coming weekend, actually. I say next weekend because I'm thinking it's still the weekend. But it's Tuesday, friends. I know what day it is. I do.
This is definitely scary for Boise State just because they didn't full cap, and anytime you don't full cap on a payload, it's a little bit scary and puts the enemy team in the position of just being able to outright win if they push that far. But this is still within the realm of possibility for Boise State, right? That last choke point, there are a great many teams that are unable to cap that final one just because it's so defensible. The respawns are right there. It sometimes feels almost as bad as 2CP. Again, just like I said before. And so Boise State can definitely defend this. It's not like Illinois just has to take first pick on first point and win. This is still very much can be a Boise State game.
Oh, big flashbang comes out. Matt is overwhelmed. Chosen responds in kind with a immortality field to make sure that they are alive and well. I have to give Boise State some serious credit on that initial push, because that, without Chosen's timing, would not have been an opportunity to survive through it. But Matt, unfortunately, now going a little bit too far forward, isolated away from the team, and Marble gets the pickup, so Boise's got to draw back and wait for that regroup.
Even though Matt Merck was not the first Reinhardt to go down, they did end up going down, which is going to cost Boise State some space here, as maybe a cheeky high noon's going to come out. Maxwell is definitely looking for that flank as Kel's down, so there's not even anybody to contest the point here, as now Matt Merck is going to come in, do it himself with Bagel on the point as well. Both runs are going to counterpin each other. Immortality field is going to come out, keep Matt Merck still in the fight. Frenchie is looking for that elimination, and Maxwell is coming for your Baptiste in that backline there. They will be able to find it, but we'll get flash fans running away. 28 HP. Things are scary for Maxwell in the back. They will finally be eliminated by Chopper, and I think that's the end of that Boise State fight there.
Yep, finally going over in favor of Illinois, and with a 5-minute time bank. They have a hefty amount. They are going to do the same as did Boise, playing super far forward, especially when you've got Frenchie trying to get back into their mech. They have not found themselves in a warm, cozy mech. Which, by the way, I would wonder if it's actually warm in there. I don't know. I think being in a mech would be still kind of chilly, because there's like a lot of open spaces if you look at it.
I think just because she's in there breathing all the time,
true,
and like because she's actively being shot at, I think it's pretty warm in there as that sound barrier is going to come out. So is the Shatter as well. It will not find any eliminations, but Matt Merck will win the battle with the Reinhardts and eliminate Crimson. Kel will eliminate Chopper with the bomb, but then Maxwell and Kel get eliminated themselves, but Frenchie and Silphil come down. Chosen, however, is going to get got by the bomb again. It's a curse at this point. Frenchie with those bombs, but Boise State, I think, wins this fight just barely by the skin of their teeth, finally taking out Marble.
Frenchie's just got a really stellar awareness of where to place these Diva Bombs, because when you're getting that many consistent pickups, it's always so devastating to have to try and just take a whole nother fight. And with them now aggressively looking to push into this, Crimzo has the Earth Shatter, which they can combine with Marble. If they do land onto a couple, they're going to take a wide swing here and try and go for a flank, and Plato's aware of it.
Plato is aware of it, trying to wall it, definitely looking for it there. The amplification matrix isn't going to get value because the counter high noon there, which actually was a really, really risky play, looking at that amplification matrix, but it absolutely paid off. And that's a team wipe, and that gets Boise State an extra 10 seconds just because they won that fight so cleanly, and here we are staggering Frenchie.
Frenchie's
oh no.
I was going to say, if that remech came through onto Matt, I guarantee you that would have been a facepalm moment. But, I mean, again, really, really heads-up play by Maxwell, despite Illinois having an opportunity to get a decent flank onto Boise State. That wall, though, is going to make it real dangerous, though, for Matt Merck, needing to get some assistance. And the rest of the team actually very far forward, postures with them, and actually keeps them alive.
It looks like Plato is looking to blizzard this choke, as all good Mays should. Except they're going to have to be very wary of Frenchie on that diva. The wall's going to come out. Mail is going to go down. It's not going to get eaten there. Sillyfo's going to get shattered by Matt Merck there. Huge immortality field's going to come down. Just keep Matt Merck up. We are trying for Crimson right now. We're going to get him, but the cost is Matt Merck, leaving both teams even. Now disadvantage to Illinois because they lost Marvel in the same fight. Huge job by Plato, just nailing that icicle to the head.
And as we take a look at the pulse for the Ultimate Economy, Illinois now at this point has quite a few to stack up for themselves. Sound Barrier to come soon online, same thing with Silly. And they've got 5 to work with to reach this next checkpoint, so they are in a good position, and they outweigh Boise State at the present moment. Boise State's going to rush in with the Ant Matrix on this.
And Deadeye is not going to get any value. Frenchie, Shatter's going to get some huge value there. Frenchie's going to get Maxwell. Matt Merck is going to get got by 4. Kell's going to get out of mech and then immediately eliminated after that. And you got to think, Illinois just had the ultimate advantage, and there wasn't a whole lot Boise State could have done that fight.
Yeah, and the good thing is that they didn't overcommit for Illinois. That's the one benefit that they had for that engagement, because now they've still got possibly 4 going into this final Furnace phase, which they've got 3 minutes to work with to get to that checkpoint that they've set for themselves, because in the end of it, their defense allowed them to prevent a completion here. Immortality Field now going to come out here for Boise State with a self-destruct over top, potentially going to look to knock them back. Frenchie doesn't get anything this time. It actually gets punished by Maxwell before remeching. Well as Matrick, though. So this is going to be really, really challenging with Bagel and Thor committing sound barriers.
Kell is going to run around and be a baby diva main, trying to get that mech back. Just as they get it back, they get eliminated. Chosen, Kell, and Bagel, and Plato are all going to go down. And at this point, if Boise State doesn't win this next fight, they lose the map. And they're going in at an ultimate disadvantage against Illinois. So really, better Blizzard wins this fight, and even if Boise State lands the Blizzard, things are pretty scary for them.
Now, High Noon coming out by Chopper as they rotate around up front. Blizzard is there to lock them into place. Is anybody going to touch?
No!
They barely get to it, but this just falls so fast. What a beautiful play by Illinois in the end. They locked them into that corner and just perfectly timed the Blizzard, so there was no way that they could escape.
Yeah.
And just stellar timing.
That's a feels bad for Boise State. They couldn't even touch. They got Blizzarded in the corner. Oh my gosh. And we knew going into that fight that Blizzard was, first of all, Boise State's only hope to try to But then also, that was the big ultimate that Illinois had, and they executed that perfectly. Yeah. That Blizzard has got to be on one of the top plays of the night, because that was amazing. Even if no eliminations actually came from it, the map win did.
Yeah. Yeah, when we talk about coordinated play, because we've seen a lot of, solo, flashy, multi-kills or the boops or everything else. But this one, even though it wasn't like, hey, look in the kill feed, like everybody's stacked up, like easy team wipe, it was really just impeccable timing, communication between the two, and also just really reading Boise State's positioning to be able to exploit that and find that weakness. It's really just those kind of heads-up plays that really do differentiate these teams, and why I can see a combination of Illinois, UCI, and Boise State in these top 3 positions that are fighting for those last 2 in this playoff, because they're really demonstrating the quality of their play. And we do actually get a confirmation here as we do get a camera pan in. We are heading to Havana for our final match between these two to see who is going to be able to take the victory and put themselves into that playoff spot of 16.
This is probably not going to be a map that goes all the way to third point, just because very few teams in general cap third point, but especially with how close both of these teams are, it's unlikely one or the other will be able to push all the way through that castle through the other. And it looks like Illinois in the blue there is going for that initial close hold, and honestly there's no reason not to, but Boise State is just going to go ahead and teleport around them. Matt Merck is still the first one to go down, though.
on the Bastion. They're going to pull a unique strat coming out here, trying to put Illinois onto a very, very uncomfortable position. And there's so much mitigation. You've got Kel with the kinetic grasp, absorbing a lot of it. The Maywall can't block it. And you've got Illinois State just tucking tail, either behind the wall or the cart.
And they managed to sustain through that Bastion that they didn't necessarily know was there. And I honestly can't believe a single elimination didn't come from that, even as they're being forced to hide in that building from Goblin on the cart.
And now looking to try and reposition. The cart's going to just keep blocking their sight line. Goblin's just having a hell of a time to try and get into a favorable position as a pulse bomb comes in by Play-Doh, getting a triple kill, shutting down both supports most specifically, and that opens this way up for an opportunity to press this to this checkpoint.
They were too focused on Goblin, and they were unaware of Play-Doh in their backline, decimating their supports, and he ended up getting the pulse bomb, which is absolutely huge. We were talking about top 5 plays of the night. That's definitely maybe one for contention there, as Boise State, Illinois still has another full fight here.
Playing underneath that archway, they now maneuver out, having a chance. Flux doesn't get much value. It only lands onto one. What a deadeye, though, from Chopper, and a follow-through onto Chosen. Quad kill! We see a triple with a pulse bomb, but Chopper comes in from on high, helping get a quad of the full team kill.
Chopper's just going nuts and handed them that fight. Something that Boise State is doing that is really unfortunate for them is they're losing their main tank first. Both of the fights that they lost, it's because the Reinhardt was down before anybody on their side could do anything. And Boise State needs to stop that if they want to even get this first checkpoint.
Oh, Blizzard's gonna,
my God.
This is gonna be another lost fight. Yeah, this is free shots for Chopper. Are you gonna get another one, Chopper? No, you're not. You're gonna chase it, aren't you? You're gonna be greedy. He's
Pickle's gonna get away just because he got stuck in the tree.
Now with 1 minute and 30 seconds to go, this is probably going to be final fight. They're going to have to maybe kind of slow push this a little bit for Goblin to get the ultimate, potentially also, because again, Play-Doh also opted to now go onto the Ashe. They've lost that ultimate economy moving forward and sacrificed it. Positioning quickly around this corner, Thor giving the movement speed. Ultimates are stacked up here for Illinois. 3 to boot. And Chopper is going to go for it. This is a little overzealous, though. Hit by the dynamite. There's nobody to give assistance onto them. The immortality field comes in time, and a self-destruct comes back with 2. Chopper goes down. A remake elimination for Frenchie.
And it looks like now with 50 seconds left, Boise State has one last fight to see if we can get it past at least this first point. And I have to think, if we can't win this next fight, I think Illinois is going to be the one in the finals.
Oh, these 35 seconds are critical. Now Boise State has to bolster their morale and elevate themselves to get through this first initial point. The payload has not really pushed that far forward in a grand scale of things. Chopper gets one onto Play-Doh, and now you've got Goblin locked away into the corner, booped all alone. The immortality field just out of range and still picked up by Marble. 12 seconds to go. Illinois has held strong, and Boise State now is in a dire position.
Boise State has to rush to even try to touch, but they do have all 6 members in this desperate attempt to kind of like touch here. Matt Merck is going to go down first, get melted on point, and nobody else can even touch there, as the bomb is just now going to come online, just too little too late.
If we were ever talking about stakes being really high and quite a mountain to climb, it's literally right now. Boise State did still get a decent distance in the grand scale because they actually got closer to where then the cart actually ended, because it did push back a little bit. But we're talking that this has to be a flawless performance from Boise State. They cannot find themselves getting eliminated. They're going to most likely go on a close hold here to guarantee that they get one last 6 stack later to not allow this payload to get there. But, I mean, this is a Herculean effort that they've got ahead of them.
So, getting stopped third point Kings Row after both of the corners is still winnable, still totally feasible, like medium difficulty. This is like hard, extreme, like next to impossible, like not even, you can't even give up first point Havana. You were talking about a flawless defense, and that's exactly what Boise State has to have. They can't lose more than 2 members at the same time. Because even if they lose that, because Illinois can get them back faster and just immediately push that, because Boise State is defending first point.
I'm curious to see exactly what they're going to do for composition-wise. They're not going to opt to go for a Bastion play here again. And they're going to opt to go with a May. Going to try and see if they can get a divide and conquer. Everyone moves out quickly, but still aggressive forward. Matt Murph almost eliminated, but the Immortality Field comes out and they get the first pickup. That is what you need. A second on to Chopper. They sacrifice Goblin, but this is still a worthwhile opportunity if they can continue these staggers by the spawn.
And they lost Goblin, which is a lot of their damage, and so now they don't have nearly the damage to try to hold this first point, but they're still doing it. They're going to drive Illinois back in their spawn. But these next 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, as Goblin tries to get back, are going to be very scary for Boise State, as Plato's going to live through the flash man. Huge shatter comes out. Huge Immortality Field is too late to save Silly on the May. Crimson will also go down on that right horn. Thor will follow immediately after, and Chopper is going to just get logged by Plato going back into spawn, and you got to think Plato is kind of carrying this hold. Like, Matt Mert got the huge shatter, but this hold is built on the back of Plato.
If that shatter didn't come up when it did for Matt, when Crimzo also had theirs, that would have been a completely different fight. That timing was perfect,
lost.
And so much was needed from that, and now you're going to see them try and route around. Crimzo gets the shatter. This is the fight that Boise State now has to clean up fast. They need to allow themselves to die, because if they continue to buy this time, it's going to stagger it out further. I still think that they would have liked to have Plato go down sooner, but that's okay. Full team kill comes through. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Payload is not going to be able to reach this position, so Boise State will have another attempt at this.
They need to get everybody in there fast, and they need to get Plato in that mix. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to win this fight. They need to get the Blizzard out before Silly Phil gets their own out. That's the big ultimate we're watching here.
I'm also really watching
coming from the high ground, pretty good.
Thor is approaching the sound barrier, which is going to be really helpful for Illinois if they can do it. Plato now with the Blizzard, looking to try and see if they can find an angle. Since they are on the payload, it's going to prevent it from moving any further forward, and they've been able to actually route Illinois. If Illinois gets picked up at least one player, that's going to be so challenging, because then it further divides and conquers. Beautiful wall to deny the explosion. Blizzard as well, taking them out with a sound barrier from Bagel. Kel needs to hold on to this sound barrier, or the self-destruct, and Chosen cannot commit this amplification matrix. They need to try and hold this so that they can carry it into this later fight, but Kel actually does have to commit it. The Blizzard, in exchange, they managed to hold this again. Minute and 30 seconds now. Illinois State has 2 more decent attempts, and you can see that golden box just around the corner.
I'm not gonna lie to you, bomb for Blizzard, huge trade. Blizzard was going to be how they won this if they win it, and now Boise State has kind of like prolonged the next Blizzard that they have to deal with, because just like the shatter, the Blizzard is going to be the ultimate that tears this hold apart, and we kind of like put that on the timer again.
Amplification Matrix blocked by the Maywall from Silly Phil up top, so that doesn't get any value, and you do have to see this abandonment up top from Chosen.
Big.
But forward aggression, and actually gets it that because the wall wasn't there to help them. They used it to block the Amplification Matrix, but can't use it to help themselves on the ground floor.
And ultimately, Maywalling the Amplification Matrix, even though it was just Chosen, just a Baptiste is still incredibly dangerous. So Boise State did a phenomenal job of putting them in 2 situations in which they needed the Maywall to prevent people from getting eliminated, but they couldn't do both.
And now with these 30 seconds remaining, this payload has a lot of distance to cover. Boise State now with these 2 ultimates online. Plato with the Blizzard going to lead in first. Shatter lands on to 3. Crimzo is slowed. Frenchie almost eliminated. 10 seconds to go. Now as they do look to try and fall back, Matt Merck, they're making sure that they can sustain through this, because you can still see Illinois spawn into this. Blind aggression now with the remake. Frenchie pinned into the corner, actually evades it, gets shouldered, and is not out of it yet.
And now Boise State has a desperate attempt on the card trying to control this. And honestly, Boise State does get a recontest. They do get to touch. They do not get all 6 members on this cart at once.
This is so dire now. You're going to have Boise State because Matt Merck got staggered out so late. That's going to be so challenging, even with the charge. It's going to have to be up to Kel here getting back with the boosters. Actually, they're a lot closer. They do have a chance to do this with now the amplification matrix, the self-destruct, and Bagel having this self-barrier could be enough. Kel now looking to just continue to pepper damage in the backside. Amplification matrix trying to find some cell line. That's one down. Marble being eliminated. Now swiveling to the outside of the Blizzard, tossing it over. Triple kill with the self-destruct as the sound barrier comes in from Bagel. That's the absolute necessary explosion. Boise State manages earlier to take a victory over a team that they've not once had before 7 times prior, and now they allow themselves to take the victory over Illinois Orange, putting them into the playoffs of this Overwatch Collegiate Championship Series.
And what a series of maps. That came down to a couple of fights. Boise State defending first point. Oh my gosh. You got to think if you're a Boise State player right now, you really confronted all of your limits and then surpassed them to beat this team tonight. Like Boise State, that really took everything they had, but now we're going to the finals where the matches won't get any easier. So we're going to have to continue to just give it our all every matchup, every night, every team. But
4 more days.
We've shown that
4
we
more
should
days
be
of
there.
playoffs. Yeah. 4 days of, consistent performance, but this is just, again, another step in the right direction. And if I am correct in just understanding where the placements, because I know we were finalizing a lot of the top 16, it is going to be Boise State first heading off against for that round 1 going into the weekend's playoffs against Miami University Redhawks. So again, that's another, rival that I have heard before, where to see them go head to head, your face is a dead giveaway of that. So your expression.
That's looking pretty rough. Boise State's really going to have to pull it out. But honestly, Boise State wasn't the favored win tonight either.
I know.
But they did. For the first time in 7 matchups, they did. And so we've proved that not only do we have the right to be in the playoffs, but we have the ability to learn and grow and go against these teams that previously might have kind of like written Boise State off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And, just being able to be a little bit more frequent, on these broadcasts of Boise State, the roster is such a stellar group of individuals. They've really allowed themselves to elevate and become a more formidable team that we talk about, in these power rankings and looking at, what we've seen either on Twitter or from those that kind of review and analyze and look at the big names. I mean, we've talked before previously, even back when I did the interview with Doc about, what does Hugh look like? Who are some of the sleepers? Like Bay State has also developed so well. Boise State has continued to do the same thing. There are so many names amongst these colleges that have really risen to power, and this is a perfect example of it. You've come against a team who has won a Overwatch Collegiate Championship Series prior. Utah finally taking them down. At this point now, a 3-way tie to go into the last 2 for playoffs, making sure that you are securing that spot. There is just so much here evolving from just the players and how they're performing, the coaching that's coming out from Doc, everything from all different aspects of this, and just their performance, even outside of just, ABC. When it comes to NACE, when it comes to all those other, tournaments that you have been involved with, it's just really exciting to see the direction that this Boise State team is going.
Tonight was an uphill battle, and it's only going to be harder, but we're ready for it. And with that, are there any specific players that you wanted to highlight?
Oh my, I'm not going to get the right one for whoever the selection is. That's a tall ask. That's a very tall ask.
Everybody has a massive highlight reel from tonight.
I'm going to say...
Who do you think is the biggest?
I'm going to say Goblin. I'm going to say
safe
Goblin.
Choice.
I'm going to go with... It's a safe choice because I know we saw... because I don't know. Because Bagel did so good. I can't even make the decision. I can't. I'm going to say... show who it is. Let's run the reel. Who is it? Was I right? Was I right?
I don't want to guess, so just tell me who it is, he says.
It was one of the DPS. It was one of the DPS. It's okay. I was in the right realm. I was in the forest. I just wasn't by the right tree.
A lot of trees to pick from, because honestly, like we said before, everybody has a highlight reel from tonight. And even if we didn't see Bagel on the player of the game, I'm sure we'll see him in the top 5. And so the ICCU player of the game is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Plato is the Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game from probably one of the best games we've had all season.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't say anything against it because everyone truly did perform well. But Plato, there was even the clip just before this when it came to their Ashe play, which was stellar. And the Mei tempo control to try and really compete against the other Meis was also something to really keep an eye on. And that's why it was so hard for me to even make a decision, because there are so many key aspects that Boise really was performing. And like you mentioned, highlight reel indeed. Like everyone has a moment of success today that they should literally hold their head high after having this many games back to back.
Especially that, because after having this many games back-to-back and then still managing to, like, win the one that, like, really the culmination of it all, like, you've got to imagine that fatigue is setting in and all of these other things. And overall, a great night. Are there any big takeaways before we go to our top 5 plays?
Don't waver from how far you've come, Boise State. Like, don't. Like, keep doing everything that you are, and the leadership that you have is fueling you to be in this type of competitive position. And I cannot wait to see how you continue to perform. It's so just riveting to watch. And like I commented, I could literally go down the list of probably 2 or 3 plays to each player over the course of tonight and recall them vividly to say that would literally be a highlight moment for you. Like, that would be a highlight moment for you. Like, this is one moment that you did really well. Like, every one of them. And just keep it up. Seriously.
So keep it up, Boise State. Everybody's watching you now. You've gotten to the big leagues. Now perform well there. And with that, we're going to head to our top 5 plays, which are presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, which is a proud supporter of Boise State esports. Top plays are presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. With more than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for, the Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. Reach out on Twitch at iGuardGaming.
Got the perfect time, just denying Plato, but he does have Bob built up, so that could just be allow them to push the card that much further. Card's still going uncontested, even with Swift on this race. But now Levels Rage even swapping over to the Soldier 76 as Matt Merck comes flying in with the mines to get the elimination on Baptiste. Now Plato to bring out the Bob.
Oh, you had time.
I mean, he did get Andy, so that is main heals down. When as the Rex Call did go in the back line, and with the help of Need HP to take down Chosen, as Bagel could only res one and chose Plato. But there goes the hamster squill taken down by Goblin, as well as Sonic falling. Boise State collapsed on the attack.
Plato's going to live through the Flash Man. Huge shatter comes out. Huge immortality field is too late to save Silly on the May. Crimson will also go down on that Reinhardt. Thor will follow immediately after. And Chopper is going to just get logged by Plato going back into spawn. And you got to think Plato is kind of carrying this hold. Like Matt
could be enough. Kel now looking to just continue to pepper damage in the backside. Amplification Matrix trying to find some cell line. That's one down. Marble being eliminated. Now swiveling to the outside of the Blizzard. Tossing it over. Triple kill with the self-destruct as the sound barrier comes in from Bagel. That's the absolute necessary explosion. He is favorable. Maybe there's a little bit more cohesion and responsiveness that comes out from Illinois, managing to gets the boot through the off the edge and going to get another onto Chopper. Quad kill from Bagel. What a way to come out the gate, and such